Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Leonard with the ball in his hand.
Westmore's going to come in double.
Rises up over Gordon and hits another one. Kawhi going off tonight in Denver. 3-point Clipper lead.
Be careful, they gave up 10 shorthanded goals. And Tampa Bay scored 11 shorthanded goals. Barkov worked it to the net front. Kachuk through a crowd, they score!
Try and get a quick inning for your Huskers into the bottom of that 8th inning, trailing by 3.
3-2 pitch. Line towards short. Carey fields it. Behind the back. Throws to first. In time. What a play by Carey, ranging up the middle. Throws it over to first in time.
I'm pretty fired up, and this wasn't on the schedule or plan to have a spring game in Devaney, but it was really important for me to get one under my belt with this team and this staff.
There's a lot of guys going to play on Saturday. They're going to play for a lot for us this year. And, play it, kind of, I like to get about 60 plays if I could, on Saturday. So I want to play. I mean, I think we have some young quarterbacks I really need to see, though. I think they deserve a chance to play in the spotlight. But no, I think it's going to be fun. I think we're going to play. So like I said, maybe play not 15 play quarters, but get about 15 plays each quarter. Give those guys a chance to go rest. Bring out the next Husker game type deal. Let those guys compete. Then go back to the next quarter. So to me, it's kind of like competition quarter, that type of deal.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's
Don't say
DB.
it.
I'm Ravi Lulla. What's up, DB?
No, you gotta say something different.
Bleep you, DB.
No.
What's that?
I mean, why not have that be the why not have that be the alternative as opposed to what's up, DB? Bleep you.
Good morning, DB.
I mean,
Is that better? How are you, DB?
I'm good. We were going on record number of days. I think that's just kind of your greeting, which is cool. Like it can be your thing.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. I always wonder in my head, is today going to be the day he hits me with something different?
Probably not.
I don't think it is.
No.
And I should have just let you say it, because if it's your thing, like it can be your own. Like, Ravi, it can be a me and you thing.
Just a you and me thing? Just our special thing?
No, let me do that. You don't have to do all that other stuff. Relax.
What's up, DB?
You're messing with my security issues. Only I can initiate weirdness. Which reminds me, no, I'm not even going to ask. Nothing about you says greeting cards guy.
Oh, what about him? What about greeting cards?
So, not to go all Adam Sandler, Mr. Deeds, but I used to be a between me and you guy.
Okay.
Do you know the brand?
Yeah. The ones that
they always look kind of watercolored,
Yeah.
and they had like some of the greatest sayings. And
like inside the stuff inside
they
the
were
card?
like legit.
Yeah.
And I was a big Hallmark guy.
They were like an offshoot of Hallmark that were a little more.
Yeah, but Hallmark carried them. Yeah,
they were a little less formal.
Yeah, but the words in there, I'm like,
yeah,
man, this author must have been going through it. This is pretty good.
So
but they were called Between
Me and You.
Or You and Me, one of the two.
There was also a version, I don't know if it was that brand or another one, that was a little funnier.
Yeah.
That was kind of a little goofy, which I like.
Shoebox?
As well. Yeah, maybe Shoebox.
You a big Shoebox guy?
Yeah. So actually, it's funny you bring up greeting cards. Back in the day, I found it very amusing for some reason to give occasion-inappropriate cards to people.
Yeah.
So if it was
kind of like my sister.
So you buy like 1 million cards for graduation parties, right? So I would like to be like happy bar mitzvah or like congrats on the grandson. Like I would just go all over the place. I had a good time with it.
Nice job with the circumcision.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get a lot of those in the card aisle.
See, that's why you should have. Are you a Mr. Deeds guy?
Yeah, I like that.
He wrote his own cards.
Yeah, I know.
So you'd have been straight. Can you draw?
Nah.
Get your little couple stick figures,
Unless it's
you get your own cardboard cut up paper.
Football helmets from the 90s.
Oh, I could do that.
Or
I used to be my jam.
I
could do that and sharks. I would do like this bottlenose dolphin and a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I used to be pretty
and a parrot.
Good at drawing
and a parakeet.
Athletes, like football players and stuff.
I don't believe a word of that. I don't think you can draw people to save your goddamn life.
No,
I think that's
not faces. That's why they have to have the helmet.
Yeah, how would you do the nose?
Well, I just kind of
I bet it looked pretty sucky. Did it have just the two little holes?
Yeah, you just got the little.
Look like a little piglet.
I allowed the face mask to do a
Did
lot
you-
of the work there.
Did you do the big full lips before collagen?
No.
Like, how did you do it?
You had the
How'd
face.
you do the eyes? Did you do the
mouth,
pupils? The iris?
the mouth
eyelashes?
on there. No, I just put little
Did
dots.
you, what were your eyebrows? Just like the little half?
Can't see eyebrows under a helmet.
Man, you weren't about that life.
I let the helmet do a lot of the work.
I should
on the
bring you
face.
my I think it was it 351? One of my practicums for teaching had art, and I still have the portfolio bin.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot in there. And I'm like, God bless the fact I don't do art. Because all I can do is draw, and I can only use a pencil. So I'm very
You
limited.
You got a limited range.
Yep. And I have you should watch me cut.
Okay.
I mean, I have the patience of a goddamn goldfish. And we were doing these sundials in Zoe's class. And they were kind of cool, though, the concept of the sundial.
Yeah.
And it was, they put the numbers on the little cardboard, and you cut the cardboard out, and you put the stick through, and then you take them outside. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is how this thing worked? God bless you, Incas and Mayas.
You didn't know how sundials work?
Okay, let's
No, I'm
not
just
get
asking.
into
I'm
that.
just asking.
I did not.
Okay.
But it was.
What did you think they were for?
I don't know. Why would I know anything about a sundial? I was born in 1974.
I was born in 1987, and I knew what sundials were.
Well, I mean, maybe you're a little more third worldish than me.
What you think?
I'm just saying.
How did that happen?
Just speculating.
I mean, my people are pretty famously good with technology.
Anywho, I was helping this little dude cut. He's a little cutie pie. He's in Zoe's class. And so I said, hey, you do this half.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do the other half. I thought I was helping him out.
That was not the case.
Why this dude beat me by like 4 minutes? And he wasn't like the music group, right? So he didn't have there weren't a lot of jagged edges. Like it was a pretty
Smooth.
Yeah. So I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. Keep in mind he's a 6-year-old, and I'm like, well, he only beat me because the scissors fit his hands better than they fit mine. That's the kind of stuff your boy does.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm racing little dudes in class.
You're a total competitive sicko.
Yeah. Severe got me on that last night. I did the Let It Fly podcast with him.
Yeah.
And he's so bad. Like, I think you're horrible.
Oh, no, I'm like severe light.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So I get there, and I'm right on time. It's like 5:29.
Yeah.
He told me 5:30. Cool, right? I go upstairs. Fantastic little sports bar. He's with the producer, and he's sitting by himself with his head down.
Mm-hmm.
So my man is literally got his hands his fingers interlocked and his head's down. I said, man, what's the matter, man? You good?
Look like you're praying.
And he goes, I'm doing what I've done my whole life. I said, what's that? He said, waiting on black people to show up. I was like, damn. I said, but I'm on time.
Oh, no.
But of course, my man,
He's military.
My
so
man,
it's-
Yeshua Jones was like 550.
I was going to say, were you before or after him?
Well, last time I did the spring preview with him, Josh didn't even do it. My man is no call, no show. But yeah, so we didn't get started till late.
Yeah.
Good
When,
little show.
when I've seen Michael like that, he's usually mad.
So I thought he was a little bothered, but it's okay. Like it wasn't directed towards me, so I didn't care.
Okay.
I don't want to be responsible for your feelings. But we were just talking about being competitive because Josh asked me a question about how I felt about this new regime and kind of managing the crabby old heads. He's like, man, you guys are always complaining. No, he didn't really say that, but he was like,
what do you mean, you guys?
How do you know? I get it though.
No,
I mean,
I
there's some idiots out here now.
Yeah.
I don't care if they used to wear the uniform or not. We got some grade A ding dong.
Oh, for sure.
And he was just talking about like how we buoy expectation levels and know that this is a different era. I said, well, glad you asked. Here's the beautiful thing. Coach Rule's pretty old school. He likes tough. He likes showing up every day, and he likes consistency. Those are all things that I'm used to, so I can rock with. And they asked some tough questions, but anyway, he got on me about my competitiveness.
Yeah, about how you're a little over the top sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird because it's totally ingrained now, but it's nothing I would choose to go back to. I'd skip college altogether.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just no thanks.
Yeah, I told you. You literally you show up and you don't bring your A game, something bad will happen to you. Either in the locker room, in the training room, on heaven forbid on the practice field.
Yeah.
Like you will get lit the frick up. So I just don't. So as competitive as I am, I don't love being on every day.
Yeah, you're living on a kind of a razor's edge there, doing it that way, which is tough.
That's why when your boy shuts it down, he shuts it all the way down. Close the blinds. I see you in about 72 hours.
That's Nick Baugh used to tell a story about his last year at Creighton when he was
Nicholas Allen
sort of battling for like a starting guard spot, and how he felt like he had to be on every single day to the point where, and he's competitive, but to the point where he's like, all right, I'm a little banged up, but I can't really afford to take any time off, even when he probably should have, like that's kind of that's the negative side of that coin, right?
Yeah, guilty is charged.
It's kind of a silent you.
Sometimes I just need you to go along with it. I mean, the incessant laughing and mockery and all that kind of stuff.
I'm laughing with you.
No, you're not, because I didn't laugh that time.
Well, I can't really control it.
There's a lot of Tim Johnson this morning, too, by the way.
I can't really control your emotions, but if I think I'm laughing with you in spirit.
That's
not at you.
Nice.
My intent is not to make fun.
Sound like a bad relationship partner.
This is a toxic relationship, DB.
Extremely.
Do I call you family too much?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn it, my man. You like your ex-girl you don't like.
So everybody thought that was funny.
What?
That was in my DMs quite a bit. Shane, play what that ding dong said again,
Lance.
please. Yeah.
But, it's good talking to you, man. You can say hi to me sometime.
You got it, my man.
You like your ex-girl you don't like.
And who of course thought that was so funny? The idiot next to me.
It was pretty funny.
Was that funny, Ravi?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh, I love when people make fun of old DB.
Oh, it wasn't making fun of you. I thought the way he phrased it was funny.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
His
girls' track team, they won first place in districts.
Nice. There you go.
I saw the trophy.
We're getting into track season.
Yeah.
We're like deep in it.
I saw a couple of the guys yesterday. Mike had a track meet in Fremont, and I saw some of the guys leaving school, Bryson and Tay and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You coming to watch us at state? I was like, damn it. That's a lot of people.
It is. You can park at my house if you want.
Can I? No, I park at Shane's complex.
Yeah, it'll be his complex is closer.
Yeah, and I got no problems walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can walk.
I know. You get on your walks all the time, and then JP acts like he doesn't know you.
True.
Or no, he was on a walk that time. You were in the car.
Little both.
Little both.
Little both.
Little column A, little column B.
Shut up.
What?
Did you have anything good for dinner last night?
What did I eat for dinner last night? No.
Me neither.
No, I had
a sandwich, no middle. So
Wait,
all the bread in the middle was torn out. And it's very meaty.
What bread? What? You put bread in the middle of your sandwich? You do like a 3-slice thing, or what am I?
No, I had a sandwich.
Yeah.
With bread, but there was no middle. So there was nothing in the bread. It was just like I would say the brown skin, but it's not skin.
The crust?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I think it's still stuck in my chest. I just would have as soon eaten the meat and cheese. No, it's sitting like right here.
Scooped the bread. Okay.
Well, whatever.
Well, no, Kobe clarified because I wasn't sure.
Kobe! How's Kobe this morning? Did you ask him?
They're doing great. They can't wait for some more content. So.
Oh, you talking about on the site? I can't believe the stir that caused internally. I felt so bad for Sasha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, they're mean to me every day. Don't cave. Stand your ground. Just don't use a weapon.
Yeah, not like Florida style. That's a stand your ground state. That's the only one I know of for sure because some bad stuff has happened. Not great.
You just can't help yourself.
That's the only stand your ground state I'm aware of.
I understand.
For sure. I'm sure there's others.
I understand.
Texas gives off those vibes. I don't know if it's on the books, but I think it's a widely accepted practice.
I don't even recognize what we're doing.
It's called a sports show. You know, we're just doing.
I don't even recognize.
I am happy the fake show got one.
Which fake
but
show?
I'm sick of saying this. Would you like to read the headlines? I blanked and I looked up, and what's on the headlines?
QB Shedeur Sanders, number 21 overall pick to the Steelers.
Everybody's messing with me now.
Better than Jalen Milroe.
Correct.
That's what Sports Illustrated had as of yesterday.
Correct.
I also wonder, and this is kind of the tricky part with mock drafts, right? Because everybody has a different process, and you don't always know if they're not super transparent about it, if they're doing what they think they should happen, or what they're getting like reported as could happen, right? And those are two very different things a lot of the time.
And it's a lot of speculation, and you have to kind of know that going in.
And a lot of it is teams getting out misinformation to try and sort of influence each other to get what they want out of the draft. So there's some of that as well, especially I feel like closer to the draft you get, the information gets a little murkier.
Are you anticipating any trades?
Well, we got the report yesterday that Giants and Browns are at least fielding calls at 2 and 3. So that's interesting.
Will it involve picks or player? I think picks. Will there be a player of significance moved in this draft?
Current player of significance? No.
One like Kayvon Thibodeau, Kirk
I would say
Cousins.
It depends on if you count Kirk Cousins. If you do, then yes.
George Boone Pickens. Anybody?
I believe that's T. Boone Pickens.
Well, whatever.
Different guy.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Do you know?
If you know, you know.
The way to San Jose.
It's ironic that you bring up. Never mind. T. Boone Pickens. There's no Oklahoma State joke there.
Selfish.
It really is.
That
was a nice little rant you went on. I like how you walk the dog all the way around the park. Next time, just cut through.
They gotta get the exercise,
bro. You dragged me all into that mess.
TV, you know when you watch commercials, some of them aren't for you.
Can I pet that dog?
That's not where I was going with that. I was like, yeah, why, Ravi? What are we talking about? Well, you know.
Well, you were looking for a new car, I thought.
Target audience.
Maybe you were.
Don't bring me in your muckety muck. Don't bring me into that muck.
I didn't do anything.
I ain't got time for your negative juice.
I was just talking about mock drafts and trying to decipher through what's real, what's not, what's projection, what's speculation, what's
you got
informed.
The juice now, man.
I don't know what that is.
That's another movie of that era in the 90s called Juice.
It's freaking bats.
With one Tupac Shakur.
Aptly named.
Is it Omar Epps?
Yes.
Darnell Jefferson from the program?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
He's on. He got game, right? Or not he got Love and Basketball. Love and Basketball.
One of those black basketball sport movies.
He can't hang on to the football and
yep.
Similar era of basketball movie.
And why did his running back teammate look like he had been out of college for about 7 years?
I don't know. You got that a lot sometimes, like with some of those older college movies, where it's like
one guy looked like a non-traditional student, the other guy looked like a first-year freshman.
You're like, that guy is 37 years old.
Yeah, Holly Berry looks 60.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, but she's a tutor. But wait, she's still in school.
Yeah.
Do you remember the program?
Barely.
Really?
Barely. I've watched it. I watched it one time like 15 years ago.
Oh, it is an absolute gem.
It's been a while.
Really?
Yeah.
You need to refresh your memory.
Okay.
Who's the old dude with the curly hair that got his ankles broke in Missouri?
The guy from The Godfather.
Correct.
What's his? I can't think.
Oh, James Caan.
Yeah,
he's the head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played a great coach.
James Caan, R.I.P.
Oh, he's no longer with us?
Yeah, no longer with us. A couple years now, I think.
So he never recovered from Kathy hitting him in the ankles with the sledgehammer?
Oh, no, it was a while after that, I think.
Yeah, that would hurt.
Yeah, not great.
It's not the way the old toes should go.
No.
Who does that?
Crazy people. I think that was kind of the idea.
Yeah, she came across as certifiable.
I think that was, I think she nailed it.
That movie drug on too long.
I haven't seen it.
Misery?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's for me.
No, that's about as anti-Ravi as it gets.
Not really.
There was no great massage parlor at the end. You would have been miserable. Like, mad.
Yeah. I mean, it's called Misery. I have to assume that's not up my alley.
Although he did get away, if I remember correctly, right, Shane?
I have not seen the movie. Which
that surprises me.
It's kind of on the bucket list, but
it's out on the periphery. Why would Misery be on your bucket list? It's not that good.
Yeah, but everybody always talks about it.
It's very famous. Like you get a lot of references.
She was
to it.
disturbing.
Yeah,
she was. Is it crazier or more crazy? She was crazier than Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Well, and then you see
that's saying something.
When you're watching, I think CBS, you see her in all those commercials and that new show she has.
It's Kathy Bates, right?
Yeah, that was one of her first roles. She got started super late in acting.
Oh, good for her.
She got started like late 30s, early 40s. That was one of her first. I think that was her first major role. I'd have to check, but yeah, she was. She's very talented. But yeah, she's not like that. But she seemed nuts.
Is she closer to the foosball lady in Waterboy?
I think in real life she's very good natured. Like she's very just kind of almost at this point like grandmotherly, but like pretty good spirited, it seems.
Yeah. Would you like to, before we start the real show, would you like to say how many hours and minutes we are away from the draft? I know you're a big countdown guy.
Guys, I have exciting news. We're officially under 36 hours away from the draft. In fact, 35 hours, 38 minutes, and 29 seconds. I don't know if you knew. It's right there. They got it for us. We could keep up to date at any time. Isn't that great? Yeah. I've only been watching that clock for 49 hours, 21 minutes, and 46 seconds. Not consecutively.
I don't want to make you mad, especially on the heels of, the Cubs ruined my night.
Yeah, that's tough.
Lakers salvage. Like you care.
I care about your overall well-being, and if that affects
when.
Well, like secretly deep down.
Way deep.
Yeah, like it's in the core.
Deep down in the jungle deep.
That's not a surface level thing,
Yeah. I think that was a Superfly reference.
But it's
one
in
of
there.
Those old characters. Caesar, maybe? Did you used to watch any blaxploitation movies?
No.
Dolomite, nothing.
Nah. I try and avoid the blaxploitation.
Big Bollywood guy, though.
That's a industry for us.
Why don't you help us out?
Well,
No.
Didn't want to be appearing to appropriate.
Idiot.
Being sort of ambiguous in look and nature.
Would you like to move off of Purdy?
No.
Like you're dead set on that.
Well, listen.
Because your alternative is to make him the highest paid player in your franchise's history.
That's the way these contracts are just going, though.
So you cool with it?
I would rather pay Purdy than a lot of guys that have gotten paid.
Yeah, okay.
There's just what's the alternative here? Because I don't have evidence that Purdy's not good. All the evidence I have is that he's good. Right?
Yeah.
Now, varying degrees of good, that's a different opinion, right? But if I'm looking at, let's just go off of the guys that are getting paid more than him currently, right? You're talking about Dak Prescott. You're talking about Kirk Cousins, or the guys that he would be in the neighborhood of if he gets the contract they're talking about. You're talking about Trevor Lawrence. Now, Josh Allen and some of those guys have gotten up there as well. Joe Burrow are in that 45 to 55 range.
I saw
Jordan Love.
yesterday downtown rocking a Burrow jersey.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I love Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't see that often. His brother, too. He had the matching hat on.
Really?
Yeah. I was walking out of Let It Fly trying not to get hit.
Who was trying to hit you?
Well, it's not.
Oh, the cars.
Yeah.
Okay. I was, man.
What the?
I thought somebody was swinging at you or something.
No, I did get a love hug, though.
For who?
Coach Lamb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was there with his staff.
So you know how you always say that guy probably likes – I probably like that guy way more than he likes me. That's how Flan and I am. I don't even know if Flan knows
He
who I
gave
am.
me a hug. It was weird.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey. I had to come say hi because he really wasn't close to me. I went out around. I was seeing as few people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But over the balcony at the sports bar, I was like, that's Coach Flan.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, shoot. He's with like 6 people. He's eating. Would I want somebody to come talk to me if I was eating? I really wouldn't. But what I do, I stop to talk anyway. And I said, hey, don't get up. I just wanted to say hello.
I think it depends on how much that person likes you.
Yeah, so...
Because there's certain people, I don't care what I'm doing, for the most part, that if they come up and say hi to me, I'm going to be happy about it.
Yeah, my dumb butt, I was like, hey, just looking for, a good end to the week, man. Just get a little love touch.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit him with the forearm rub on his shoulder, and his staff went, aw. I was like, oh, God, I probably come across like some charity case. What a weirdo. I bet I look like a real wackadoodle. No, they both, literally, the 2 ladies in unison, they were like, oh. I was like, okay.
Did you leave immediately after that?
No. We talked for like 15 minutes.
Oh, nice.
I felt horrible.
I mean, if he didn't want to talk to you, he'd have stopped.
And he stood up.
Yeah.
So.
That's almost a little bit of an invitation to continue the conversation.
You know what he told me he missed the most? I don't know how I feel about this. The high school sports talk.
Oh, yeah?
I was like, well, Flan, you can still get that.
So we still talk a good amount of high school.
He said, yeah, but I always used to wonder, like, how is he, like, oh my gosh, he likes everything. Soccer, softball.
He like went through the whole list.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, when I'm feeling bad about myself, I'm going to come hang out with you. And you know what he said? Anytime. I wanted his little button up, though. It was the Carolina blue with the C.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that thing was
fire. The Carolina blue stuff is nice.
Man.
Yeah.
And as assistant, he had on the little the powder blue quarter zip.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, can I get that?
Can I have it?
Can I get
just
that?
right now? We look about the same size. Can I have it?
Like, don't they have like a store?
A lot of times they have sort of like a closet that you get.
Which is weird because I know the guy that runs their, literally, as you know, that handles a lot of their apparel. I should just ask him.
Yeah, just ask for some stuff. And also remember that your buddy is a double X.
No. So now you're my friend.
Yeah. My buddy DB.
And you got a friend. I'm worried the Steelers are going to move Pickens.
You think so?
Yeah.
For what? Why?
Because I don't know. Khan's got some moves in him.
Okay.
And I don't want it to be Watt. I mean, he is the cornerstone franchise.
Right. And
the guy wins 70% of his starts. Yeah.
And generally in the NFL, you don't get
But the Steelers are notorious for moving off of great players before the slide.
Yeah. TJ.
So as long as it's not.
TJ would be a tough.
Did I say JJ again?
No. You just said Watt. No, okay. I'm saying TJ would be a tough.
Because sometimes
sell.
You don't want to call me out if I say a name, and so you'll reiterate the name to let me know that.
Oh, do I?
Hey, did you hear that right? I said his name correctly. I need you to pick up on what I'm saying. I was like, oh, okay, Ravi. Even though you don't really say any of that, I think that's what you think.
I don't even know I'm doing that.
Yeah, well, you're just looking out.
I'm trying to help,
Yeah.
No, I think the problem with player trades in the NFL is you don't really get the value you do.
Yeah,
in
but
the NBA.
but you're seeing them so much. You're seeing. I won't say so much. That's a little cap. But I said I wasn't gonna say cap. That's a kid.
Been hanging out with Micah too much.
Yep, I was.
That's definitely a Micah word.
I watched this dude knock off about $15 worth of Chipotle last night, and I'm like, that is so not worth it.
I was like, $15 worth of Chipotle is hardly anything now.
I was like, does that seem like double the meat to you? Nah. He's like, Dad, I'm just telling you, you got to go in and watch them. If you do it online, they skimp.
Yeah, you got to. So here's the trick. Is you ask for whatever meat you want, and then so they give you the full scoop, and then you'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, can I make that a double? And then they give you the 2 full scoops. If you ask for the double up front, they kind of skimp you a little bit. They don't give the first scoop the full scoop.
So I went here first.
Yeah.
And they have nice little signs that you have to get out of your car and walk up to because they're minuscule. And I'm like Stevie Wonder. And it says, hey, sorry for the inconvenience.
Mm-hmm.
We are not quite ready to open. We apologize.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had to get out of the car for that?
Yeah.
It looked pretty open to me. And what are these other 6 cars? Did they have to read too?
I can't read.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I don't need to hear that from you
What-
this morning.
what
I
I-
didn't even bring my readers in.
No, you're doing good.
I haven't had to read anything.
You know what I'm reading right now? Guys that are going to be in the range of what Brock Purdy gets paid. At this point in his career, would you rather have Brock Purdy or Kirk Cousins?
Purdy.
I'm going to assume Deshaun Watson's a no.
Purdy.
Okay. Kyler Murray. I know you like Kyler a lot.
That's tough.
It's a discussion for sure, I think.
Hold.
Hold. Okay. Let's go. So Jalen Hurts, you probably take Hurts.
Correct.
Okay.
Even though, man, my man got bus rolled the other day.
Yeah.
I think it was by who's the dude that picked his nose on camera for Missouri?
Oh, Chase Daniel.
Man, he went in.
Dude, he goes hard on people.
He went in on Jalen Hurts.
I sort of like
He
that.
said there were 9 to 10 other quarterbacks he would start a franchise with in the league right now, not named Jalen Hurts. What a straight face. McCoy is looking at him like he's on PCP.
10 is aggressive. I do think there's a hand. There's a several.
I don't want to. We're not going to get back. I know
That's fine.
you hate. Because you're the dude that told me he couldn't win a Super Bowl. So I know you hate. I said, are you nuts? He just played in one.
That's the Saquon Barkley Super Bowl. Oh my God. Lamar, you take. Justin Herbert, you take. I assume you take Jared Goff over Brock Purdy.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think they're very similar in terms of how they're viewed. Although
yes.
Goff has had a little bit of a renaissance.
Golf does not turn the ball over, typically.
Mm-hmm.
That's even, Steven.
Okay. Tua.
Purdy.
I'm taking Purdy as well. Trevor Lawrence.
Purdy.
I think so too. Jordan Love.
Oh no, that's
This one's tough.
That's a really good one.
This one's really tough.
I'm gonna probably take Love.
You like the ceiling better?
Yeah.
Fair. And then you've got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and then Prescott. Prescott or Purdy?
Now Dak is better than he gets credit for.
He is.
But I will. So same like current age.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, give me Purdy.
Okay. So.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Based on those are the guys that are getting paid $46 million or more.
That's not bad.
Average annual value. So if you're looking at the guy that we couldn't decide on, Jared Goff, $53 million a year.
What's Kyler Murray?
46. His contract's a little older. But he was at the time basically the highest paid quarterback in the league when he signed the deal.
Yeah, we had a meltdown over that.
Yeah.
Now he looks cheap.
He does. I mean, he's like 12th now.
Yeah.
But Jared Goff, $53 million a year. If we basically view him and Brock Purdy as even, then that's what Brock Purdy should be worth, right?
Mm.
I mean, that's sort of how value is.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't have a problem with if they're in the $50, $55 million range. I probably don't want to make him the highest paid quarterback in the league, but we're kind of splitting hairs at that point. The difference between 55 and 60 is kind of whatever.
All right.
I mean, if we're being,
I'll totally disregard that he will have been the highest paid in your franchise history.
Yeah, I just think it's a time thing, right? Like, it's just
it's time.
Like Michael Jordan's not the highest. Like, Zach LaVine made more money than Michael Jordan. So I'm kind of just like, whatever.
Yeah. But you did just get rid of Bosa. You do have Christian McCaffrey, so I'm not dumb enough to not understand inflation.
No,
I'm just telling you that.
Positionally, like at quarterback, they haven't had this type of guy at quarterback.
No, but listen to what I'm telling you.
Paid like this.
So I understand the QB spot, but when you talk about what players have meant
to the franchise, sure,
even recently.
Yeah, no, I get it. Listen, I'm not thrilled that they let go of Bosa. I'm not thrilled that they let go of half their team in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get that. I also understand almost every position, although I would put a pause on Bosa, on premier edge rushers. Almost every other spot in the league is easier to find than quarterback. And if you feel like you figured it out at quarterback, then you figure out the rest.
By the way, Shane, shout out to you and Geno Smith. I brought your guy today. I want you to feel better about yourself on the heels of the draft.
Well, I appreciate that.
Geno Smith making 37.5. You feel okay there?
Yeah, the 2-year extension.
You know,
He got what? Yeah, he got 273.
Yeah, 273,
On the
75,
extension,
something like that. Yeah,
they got their guy.
they got their guy, and
I mean,
again,
it's better. Listen,
I would pay that. You pay that for Geno Smith because it's better than not
than going fishing.
than going Aiden O'Connell or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Geno Smith has been good enough to say, yeah, if this is, I mean, that puts him at like 12th or 14th in the league. If I can pay 14th in the league average salary to a guy that I know is going to be reasonably productive and a guy that I know works with Pete Carroll, done. Wash my hands of it.
Mm.
You know, obviously Kyle Shanahan can't do it with anybody because Trey Lance exists.
Well, apparently nobody can do it with Trey Lance.
Apparently, right? So you can't just say, oh, well, it's Kyle Shanahan. He'll figure it out with anybody. That's not true. They spent draft capital and a number 3 pick for a guy he couldn't figure it out with. So it's not just a plug-and-play thing. You have to have the right guy. And Brock Purdy is dramatically better than Jimmy Garoppolo was. So it's not it's clearly not an every guy thing.
Yeah.
So if you find a guy that it works with, you go.
My man Justin said golf 100%. I don't know. I usually ride with you, Justin. So
I like Goff a lot, by the way.
I do too. But Goff's roster is incredible.
Which is the thing Purdy gets hit for a lot.
And I cannot separate that. And it's what Purdy gets dinged for.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you give me J-Mo and that offensive line and Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery, like, it's hard for me to separate that. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got a heck of a tight. You got 2 really good tight ends.
Yeah.
So I get like the gut reaction to say Goff, but that roster is sensational, and he arguably has the best offensive line in the NFL,
all of football,
and certainly top 2 or 3.
Yes. It's probably the most apples to apples comparison there is.
Yeah.
Loaded roster.
So I mean, I'm not quite 100%er, but I get the gut deal.
I'm a big Goff fan. I'm glad he's had this success after getting jettisoned out of LA.
And like, do we know? I mean, is Goff the same dude if he's playing in Baltimore or
switch Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff
put him out? Like, I mean, Goff gets the friendly confines a ton.
Yeah,
he plays inside at Minnesota.
Oh, you're talking about weather.
He plays inside in
situation.
Detroit.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. He's cool.
I like Jared Goff a ton. I think it's probably the closest one on this list.
That's fine.
I think it's a very apples to apples comparison.
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, we'll take a break.
You like apples?
I do.
Yeah.
I like them all. I mean, I'd have to sit down and have the taste test between Granny and Fiji and what's the popular one?
Honeycrisp.
Yeah. That and
those things are huge. They're like,
well, I feel like they're injecting things.
Oh, like 90s baseball apples.
Yeah, you'll be growing a horn here in like 2032 and wonder what the heck happened. That's what's going to happen from all the ice I drink.
From all the ice you drink?
Yeah.
The ice is going to... What's the ice going to do?
No,
they put
like
stuff in the ice?
The drink ice. Like bubbly flavored water.
I thought you meant like actual frozen water. I was like, DP, what are you talking about? You play baseball for Michigan? What is that?
Stay off the stuff. Coach Rowe answered a question yesterday, and I do believe he was talking to you.
You think he was talking to me?
I do.
He said some other stuff yesterday, too. I also want to get into, because you may not believe this, but I took a deep dive.
Okay, but listen.
Yeah.
So somebody replied on social media, and he goes, I've never heard 2 guys talk about something for 40 minutes and be saying the same thing. We were not saying the same thing about Dylan Raiola. I let you off the hook, not because I thought you were wrong, but I didn't want to get in the weeds of the chicken or the egg thing.
Yeah.
But we clearly were saying something different.
I think we arrived at a spot where we understood where the other person was saying and was like, yeah, it's probably not worth arguing the other point.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
that's what I felt like.
Yeah, but I didn't think you were wrong necessarily, but it was a very chicken or egg thing that was going to be hard to get to the bottom of.
Yeah.
So it's like there was no point
but we
going.
were not saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Coach Rowe was definitely talking to me.
So I think he was riding with me.
I do too. Yeah, I think he was making your point.
Yeah.
Or I think Shafe was basically making that point as well.
Yeah, Shafe was good yesterday.
Shafe was good yesterday.
I'm gonna stop saying that because I think I said that like 4 weeks in a row.
I'll say he's good pretty much every week,
and he's really the only guest I've ever wanted to choke out, other than Virgil. So I try not to say super nice things about. No, I was gonna kill Shafe.
I know.
Like he knows it. I know it. We'll
Yeah.
move on from that, but
yeah, it's all right. It's all kumbaya now.
He did say he was sorry. That's hey man, you can't apologize in private after you acted up in public. But it's cool. I love you.
And now it's all rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah, I give a hug. Although he doesn't seem much like the hugging type. I would not go in for a hug on Mike J.
Not like Flan?
No. Flan like met me halfway.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Over the top.
Got to match the vibes.
Meet me halfway.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Live.
Jacob, moving on to the positions for the coaches and who they're handling at practice, how does that differ between this year to last year?
Yeah, just kind of shuffling the staff a little bit. Obviously, Jordan Larson departing, they're still kind of working out how exactly she wants it to work. Busman Kelly said she wants everybody working with everybody, but it does feel it's important that they have their specific coaches that they report to for getting up, setting up meeting times, and for figuring out the video they need to watch and things like that. They know exactly who they need to go to, who they're going to hear from consistently, while they still hear from all the members of the staff. But we're seeing Busman Kelly herself is taking on the setter coaching role, so working directly with the setters, and obviously she's got setting and libero experience herself as a player here at Nebraska. So it's understandable that she would want to be really hands-on with that position. And Kelly Hunter is still in those meetings, still offering her advice and making sure she's helping establish Busman Kelly's vision for how the position needs to work. But she's not necessarily the sole one in charge of everything now.
I wanted to be able to take, basically most of the 2s and 3s, like take the older guys out, but have all the 2s. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are going to play on Saturday. They're going to play for a lot for us this year. And, play it, kind of, I like to get about 60 plays if I could, on Saturday. So I want to play. I mean, I think we have some young quarterbacks I really need to see. Well, I think they deserve a chance to play in the spotlight. Now, we've had a couple, late, soft tissue things, at some receiver spots. So, we might be in the triple out there on Saturday, running the ball downhill. But no, I think it's going to be fun. I think we're gonna play. Like I said, maybe play, not 15 play quarters, but get about 15 plays each quarter. Give those guys a chance to go rest. Bring out the the next Husker game type deal. Let those guys compete. Then go back to the next quarter. So to me, it's kind of like competition quarter, that type of a deal.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
10 steps ahead of where he was, and where he was pretty cool. Even like a day-to-day when there's no pads and you're doing all these 2 minutes, the defensive line can knock down the line. There's no pads, so the pockets and his movement in the pocket, I think, is excellent. His ability to play the next play and move on, his checks, his knowing what he's seeing coverage-wise. Like I said, we're playing a lot different coverages, and maybe we've added some more coverages, and so I think he's able to get through all the coverages. And I've really enjoyed watching him coach the other quarterbacks while they're out there, right? So, Glenn's over there with the other quarterbacks, kind of getting them to play, going through the reads and all that, and then whether it's Jalen or TJ, they're behind, and he's, Dylan's back there, and he's reminding him of things, or we had a weird situation, 2-minute situation today, and he got in the huddle for the first group. They got in the huddle for the second group. He's like, "Hey, 12 seconds. We have 3 timeouts. Catch the ball." So I think just the situational awareness. I think he's doing all of those things at a really, really high level.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can get 75-cent wings all weekend. That's all day Saturday, all day Sunday, 75-cent wings. Make sure you stop into either location, Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. DB, I think your boy may have been talking to me a little bit there.
Maybe
just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. He seems to think Dylan's a lot better.
Maybe.
So I want to be clear. Yesterday, I wasn't saying I don't think Dylan's any better. I was saying I think the results will be better even if he's not.
This is what I heard.
Yeah.
And you could be like, come on, man, get the.
And maybe I didn't communicate it very well, so that's on the table. That's possible. But what did you hear?
My favorite character from Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon, not the
live action.
Although the live action was straight.
It wasn't bad.
I liked the little candle because he was kind of bougie.
Yeah.
He had like the collars and
Lumiere. Yeah.
I could have just been having candle wax in my ear and didn't hear you correctly. Don't ask me why I used the Beauty and the Beast reference, but I was just thinking candles. He was like my favorite candle, but I'm a big candle guy because I have a lot of scents around the house. But anyway,
okay,
never gonna get that 15 seconds back.
But now we know you're.
I heard that Dylan will naturally just be better because he's around Holgorsen another year in this offense, and I was like, well, sure, but there are some things that Dylan has to do better that are independent of whether he's with Holgorsen or not.
Sure,
that's really what I should have said.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I could have nipped the chicken or the egg discussion in the bud. It's bud, right?
You nip like flowers.
Yes. But then it morphed into all these other things.
Sure. At its core,
Dylan
got a goose out there again.
Yeah, I don't know what the world is wrong with these birds.
Got some wildlife out here today.
I hit one of those with my SUV once.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
They're a little thicker than you think when you hit them.
Yeah, he survived. I assumed it was a he. I don't know if his.
Yeah,
I don't know how you check.
But I don't know how to properly gender geese, but we're just gonna assume.
So it's like.
No, and that's fair, and I agree that's kind of what I was trying to say. If Nebraska wants to meet their goals next year, Dylan for sure needs to get better independently of Dana Holgorsen.
I did not hear that yesterday.
My point was, I did say the part about meeting their goals, he needs to be better. I remember saying that. My point was, just by having Dana Holgorsen here for a whole year, their results will be better, even if Dylan's the same.
So I think a part of where my pushback came from is on the heels of talking to Mike J and just talking to everybody, like my sphere of influence. We make a lot of assumptions about the offense and taking steps.
Sure, yeah.
I'm like, I'm just not so sure.
Yeah.
Because the only things you know for sure about this offense so far under Coach Rule is offensive line is better year over year so far.
I think that's true.
Tight end play has been better year over year.
Accurate.
What else do we know for sure?
The running backs have gotten better.
We only know that from
1 to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. That's about it on the offense.
So we've made a lot of leaps of faith.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of those are based on Dylan's pedigree. We're
Correct.
making a leap of
and
faith.
I talked about that, right? And you said something that was actually, for once, kind of smart. You said,
I
think we have a tendency to do that with highly rated guys.
Mm-hmm.
We just assume that there's this natural growth.
That they'll get better.
And I'm like,
and a lot of times they do.
Cool. Right? I'd honor that. Like, that's...
Especially guys that start as true freshmen. A lot of times it looks a lot like Dylan's season did, and then second year they're a lot better.
But I need to see, like, against the Purdue's where, and this is not opponent specific, but where you take that play clock down to like 4 seconds and you've gone like 3 checks, and then you recheck, and then you get a crease run. Like, I want to see that more.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he did that?
Yep. Because Rule pointed it out. He goes, "Hey, Dylan went through like 3 checks there to get to that." And
good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was against Purdue, right? And so, or again, a 3rd and 6. If I got a little stick route, don't take the shot play. Take the first down and move the sticks.
Yeah.
Or, hey man, cut it loose. Hey,
understanding when to take the shot
don't put so
play
much air
versus-
into that. Don't put so much air into that one. Just put it on him.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big play. Just take that play. Like, we start doing that, and it's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
So that's the part that I'm talking about.
That Dylan can get better at independently.
That's independent of DH.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that part has to happen first. And you know, I showed.
I don't know if it has to happen first. I like that needs to happen.
They look like the same person.
They kind of do. That's freaking me out a little bit. I agree that it needs to happen for Nebraska's offense to be what we assume it could be. Right? But I do think just having – there's going to be easier stuff. That's what Dana Holgorsen, his entire career, has allowed quarterbacks to do, is to give – we talked about it yesterday, to give them gimmies, right? And there's going to be more gimmies. So even if Dylan doesn't make those improvements, the fact that there will be more gimmies for him to hit is going to make some of the results better. Now, I agree on everything he needs to get better, right? He needs to learn when to take the shot versus when to take the first down or take what the defense gives him. He needs to learn when to rip it versus when to kind of put some air under it. He needs to do a better job of more consistently getting into those right checks so we get more run plays like we did against Purdue. All of that's true. I'm not denying any of that.
Like, his command alone, I'm with you. His command alone will be better.
Yeah. Just because he's done it.
Right? I mean, he can finish these guys' sentences. That's where you want him.
Yeah.
But there's still the ability, again, 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 5, where if I have a check down, set my feet, get my elbow up, just throw it to that guy.
Yeah.
Just throw it to him. It doesn't have to be off balance. It doesn't have to be some weird arm angle. It doesn't have to be any of these things that sometimes we have a tendency to see when we just get comfortable. Like, just play catch.
Yeah.
We start doing that and you're cooking with, I mean, like, you're moving now.
Yeah.
Because
then you got the combination
to your point
of Dana.
Yeah, to your point,
Dylan being better.
You do get the smarts of sequential play calling.
Yeah, you get the boost.
And understanding, like, play recognition.
Yeah.
That's a DH thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's the most likely scenario, I think, is that both kind of elevate each other. I think that's the most likely scenario.
Right.
Because we heard from Rule yesterday, and again, he doesn't tell us lies very often, as far as I can tell. So if he tells me, and they actually addressed this. I don't remember if it was him specifically. I think it was last week where he said, hey, we kind of go out of our way not to talk about a specific player very often, right? And he kind of went out of his way. I know they asked about Dylan, but he went out of his way to say all the things that Dylan was better at, right? It wasn't just a quick answer about, yeah, I mean, he's got more reps under his belt. He's more comfortable. Like, that's an easy throwaway answer. That's also true about Dylan. But he went out of his way to go, no, he's 10 steps ahead of where he was last year. And whether it's 10 or 8 or 12, like, that doesn't really matter. But he was trying to make it, hey, he's significantly better than he was last year. And then he went and described some of the places that he is better than he was last year. So it wasn't even just a throwaway line of, oh, yeah, he's a ton better than he was last year. Then he told us why. He told us the places where he was better. So I think if we trust Coach Rule, which I do, and he tells me that, I have to trust that's accurate, that's the case.
Yeah. And
I also think that having Dana Holgorsen for a whole offseason and to start a season is also going to be a big boost.
Hey, so and this might not be this is more on the heels of me saying, why are we so quick to give the offense the benefit of the doubt? And I get Shafe's question. It was well stated. He said, "Hey, well, who's the Dylan Raiola and the Emmett Johnsons on defense?"
Yeah.
Now, as we were on in the conversation, there are several Emmett Johnsons.
I think so. Yeah.
But I do think, without disparaging Dylan, because I'm certainly not, I think we're misremembering how the season played out in terms of his overall prowess.
Sure.
There's plenty of room for growth from a first-year guy. But Shafe's response to me was brilliant. He said, "Hey, can I just push back with some low-hanging fruit?" Sure, Shafe, go ahead. Of those guys, who had 500 snaps where they had the ball in their hands the whole time?
Yeah.
You know what I had to say? I tipped my cap. Hey, man, good point.
Yeah.
But that does not discount the fact that we have to get significantly better at that spot.
For sure.
But I do understand his sample size. Way more room to be critiqued.
Than anybody, right? On the defensive side, anybody.
So you know what saying that did to me?
What's that?
This is, again, this things I don't enjoy saying, but I have to be honest, right? Because there are a couple of my guys at practice yesterday. And one called yesterday during lunch, and he doesn't really like me, but he called anyway to say, "Hey, man, like, I'm going to give you some props here. Your little dude is a stud, right? He's working with the top group, like rotating in. He looks like he belongs. He's this, he's that, he's other." And that was on the heels of the other message that I showed you.
Yep.
Where same kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
But you saw the part about the defense versus the offense. Did you notice that in the blurb I sent?
Yep.
Are we sure that we shouldn't feel better about the defense than we do currently? Because what I wanted to say was, I'm like, well, maybe he's one of the guys that we should be talking about more. That we don't. I don't.
You mean Caleb?
Yeah, I don't, because he's
overly cautious about it.
And he's mine.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to be that dude.
Yeah.
But I do know he's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And so I do him a disservice because by the way, I wait for somebody else to bring him up.
Yeah.
Now the call yesterday, I was like, probably should be talking about the versatility on the back end now, because they do have some options.
Yeah.
But we are very quick to be like, oh, these guys, they'll do blank, 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 and these guys, they won't. And I don't know if it's the options versus the answers, or it's the 5-star and the proven offensive mind, or what. But I think I think both sides are about at the
Pretty
same.
even.
Yeah, that's what I think.
We can ask Brian Christopherson about that coming up next year, because I do think it's a good question. I think there are reasons, but we'll see what BC thinks. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
I'm pretty fired up, and this wasn't on the schedule or planned to have a spring game in Devaney, but it was really important for me to get one under my belt with this team and this staff, and against an opponent that is also in a new era. I think adds another excitement piece to it with a new coach and, a young coach who's got a great reputation. And so I think it's going to be a lot of energy on both sides, and I'm really excited for it. And again, just the practice of the prep and the game day is all going to be great for everybody.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
So I think my job when I meet with the guys after spring ball is always to tell them, this is what I think you need to do. I'm accessible 24/7. I'm happy to talk to guys. You know, I don't talk to guys about money. I don't think that's good business. I think my conversations with guys should be about football. That's Pat and Sean are here to talk about the financial piece. When there's a financial component, I mean, there's a reason why I have an agent. You know, I mean, if I had needed, if there's something in my contract, I don't want to, start having those conversations. I'm not adept at that. So yeah, I mean, guys can come talk to us anytime. Guys have come into me and, some guys have said, hey, where do you think I fit? Where am I at in the 105? We've been honest with everyone. I told them I'm available here for them at any point this week. I kind of have two rules. I don't want to talk about any other players. There's when you start paying players, I didn't get into college football to be in this business of paying different people, right? And it is what it is. And I'm happy they're getting stuff, but it is hard that he's getting one amount and you're getting another. And so that can be very hard for guys. And so I'm not here to talk badly about another player on the team. And I'm not here to spend a lot of time talking about money. I'm here to talk about football.
Welcome back. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. We are joined now by Brian Christopherson, Husker247. What's up, BC?
Oh, not a lot. How you guys doing?
B Sizzle. How we doing, buddy?
Doing great.
Hey, and let me ask you something, my little philosophical friend.
Okay.
If we keep making these, this is on the heels of this comment, so I'm going to ask somebody that has a little depth. On the heels of the whole, I don't like talking about money and I want to talk about football and that's somebody else's job. And we keep making these comparisons to college gravitating closer to the NFL. How quickly before you think the players learn and understand you do not concern yourself with what other people in the locker room are doing or they're getting, because that is a huge component of the professional ranks that makes it work. You do not put your hands in other people's pockets.
Yeah.
How quickly do you think collegiate athletes will have to learn that?
Oh man, that's interesting. Yeah, that it's probably going to take some adapting.
That's
there.
part of it.
Do you think? I mean, obviously he said that for a reason. Do you think that's a more significant problem than we realize? Like that's going on more than is known.
So I don't know. I don't know, but I do know this. Like if I'm in conflict resolution, or it doesn't matter if it's relational or it's player. So those people that I'm dealing with know two things. Number one, you cannot devalue somebody else to make your point. You start doing that, we're not having this conversation. Number two, your comparison can't be to somebody else.
Right.
Or we're not having this conversation. So I think it's just good business to do like that, to think like that anyway, more than if I think it's actually an issue. I just don't think these guys are familiar enough with protocol to keep other people's money and those things out of your mouth.
Yeah, you're probably right. So with that said, I think Rule made a good point about how he's handling it, where it's like, that's Pat Stewart, that's Sean Patton over here. You talk about that over there. Let's talk about football. Let's talk about where you're at as a player, what you've put on tape, what you got to get better at, what it's going to take to develop you to get you to the next level. And then you can always tell too, there's that floating in front of guys, which is important. And Rule said this since he got here, the idea of building yourself to be a player who gets a second contract in the NFL and thinking big picture about everything. When sometimes you want to get caught up in this thing that's right in front of you. It's like, let's just keep working day to day and make yourself the kind of player that's like has a Cam Jurgens story. Like he brought that up yesterday, like put it in front of little Cam growing up through the years in his Husker stuff. Now look where he is. Did he always think he was going to get to that point? I don't know, but he just kept developing day to day, and he had we all know he had tough spots on that journey. And so,
how about our revisionist history with him? That's a whole nother segment coming up. But
you do that. I mean, there were struggles. So, I mean, that's what's, he went through it when he was at Nebraska and to where.
Remember when we said he was costing Nebraska games?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had a rough go there. Snap.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's an awesome story. I always thought he was had a great potential as a lineman. I remember I'm getting off on another subject now, but the South Alabama game, the first game of 2019, the snaps were all over the place and they could not move South Alabama at the line of scrimmage. I was like, this is going to be rough this year.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a good question though, Damon. You're one about it is going to take some adapting time. For I think players like that's that guy's thing over there. I gotta what's my deal here? Like let's just focus on that and how I can get better. And
because I think people will misconstrue what he said. I don't think Jalen Lloyd is having a conversation with a sit down talking about Ja'Cory Barney.
Mm-hmm.
What I think he's talking about is, if Marty Brown or Jalen Lloyd goes to Okie State and he's not gonna say to Gundy, hey, over at Nebraska, blank, or Andrew Marshall isn't gonna come to Nebraska and say, hey, over at Miami, they have to get out of that and just talk about, hey, what do I need to do to be slotted here? I mean, maybe it leaks into. I just know Emmett's not. Or Ives isn't worried about what Emmett's making. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't think it's like that as much as the totality of what it takes to be on this football team as a functional player.
Yeah, I agree. And I also, I mean, what's a word that Rules used a lot this spring? It or at least at the start was gratitude when he would talk about, the Marcus Watson, Trent type guys who came here. Obviously he didn't have the same resources at Georgia Southern. And that's just a player who's thankful for his opportunity and man, you're getting 21 meals a week and all this stuff. So I do think that's a component too, when they're looking at guys, it's like who's processing this sort of in the right way, where that's not going to be as big a factor. Some of what you're talking about.
BC, I want to change gears here on you a little bit. We were talking before you came on here about which sides of the football and which positions specifically kind of get benefit of the doubt. It seems like the offense, at least in this particular offseason, has gotten a lot of the benefit of the doubt over the defense. A, do you agree? And B, why do you think that is?
Yeah, they maybe have. Let me think about this. The offense has more guys where, and maybe this is the reason, they have more guys where you could probably, if you said, take the 2-deep quiz right now, everybody, who's where, maybe you could do that. And maybe because of that, there's some of that thought. I do think there's some uncertainty, and this isn't a bad thing, but because of how little John Butler talked about stuff of the back seven. And so I got the sense that they feel really good about how they're tracking. The comment that sticks out most to me was John Butler talking about how he would occasionally ask Phil Snow, okay, you've been with defenses for 4 decades. How's this one tracking right now with this compared to maybe back then at this thing that you did? And he's been getting good reviews, and you could tell that made him feel good about the road they're on. And so I don't know, if you piece together all the comments and you want to play Inspector Gadget, you hear about the man, you got the theme song in your head now, don't you? But yeah, the man coverage though, how good they've been, with that, you take up that, and then how good he feels about some of the blitzers they have. And I don't necessarily have more confidence in the offense. I think it's maybe because people think they can name off more of with certainty what it looks like at certain spots, but that doesn't mean they're in better shape.
We just think we know who's going to play.
So yeah, and I think that factors into why maybe that comes off that way when you're a little more sure. But
even though I disagreed at the end, I love the way your colleague put it. Shafe said, and I would have actually thrown in Holgorsen too. So I'll ask you this because it didn't come up. Is there a Dana Holgorsen equivalent defensively on that staff that gets the benefit of the doubt due to his track record? And then Shafe said, well, who's the Dylan Raiola and the Emmett Johnson of the defense? Now, when we landed the plane, there are several Emmett Johnsons, in my opinion, right? Javen Wright, Marquise Buford, Malcolm Hart. So, I mean, guys that have had short windows of kind of brief success. But at the end of the day, as the biggest Emmett Johnson cheerleader amongst the three of us, he still only had one touchdown last year. So I just find it interesting that all of a sudden in a room in which we had all this consternation and hand-wringing, that now it's like,
oh, he's a given.
He's the given.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's several of those guys on the defense. And if I get inside Dylan's numbers without understanding that he has a tremendous talent, we're still 71%, which is incredible. Don't get me wrong there. But we're 13 to 11 TDs to interception. Like, there's plenty of room for growth, right? Yep. But when you combine all those things, it's like and I'm not mad about it. I'm just trying to figure out why they get the grace.
I think it's the Holgorsen effect is a large part of it.
That's kind of where I land.
You know what? He's so part of it is not just that he has such a resume where people can look back, be like, okay, I like this offense. I remember him. People here still think about like his Oklahoma State offense when he was with Gundy. And he's got just a way of communicating what's going on over there that people around here really appreciate. And so the whole thing works together. With the Wisconsin game last year, like I put that on the other day, and you watch like how he had him on ice skates on the drive where they went up like 34-10 on early in the third quarter. There's like this 7-play drive that's just a piece of beauty. Where they're getting layups all over the place, where he has Wisconsin going one way and Nebraska's going the other. So I think it's that thought, like, man, they're really going to build up off of, like, I was encouraged by those last few games, and there was more rhythm, it felt like, and you could tell there was just a little bit more optimism from the players themselves on that side of the ball at the end of the year. That's got to be way better, right? And I think that's why people are maybe, in the offseason saying, okay, the offense maybe a little ahead of defense or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know that they are. I think it's been a pretty back and forth, and it sounds like the defense at certain coverage situations has been probably won their share or more.
So I think you hit on both of the things that I was going to say about the benefit of the doubt. One was
you teed it up for this hapless, lifeless hitter over here, BC. Just throw him a meatball.
One was I still might pop it up.
You're like a guy in the Twins lineup. You're saying, Ravi, you're like a guy that's like 110, which still have you batting fifth. Anyway, go on.
I'm your Byron Buxton. The one was I think we just know more of the names that we think for sure are going to play, whether we're right or not. I mean,
yep.
It seems like we just feel more comfortable with it. And second, we like Dana better than we like John Butler at this point. We just, I mean, that's it, right? Like that's.
I'll add one more. Who do we think is more talented than Dylan?
I mean, nobody. We look at Dylan,
but I do have one comp.
Yeah,
of physical traits that we still want to see.
Williams.
I think Deshaun Singleton.
is
pretty talented. There's way more in there than what we've seen, and I think Dylan is way talented, and there's still more in there. The thing about Dylan that I like is he's mastered the harder stuff. The leadership, the charisma, the how to attack your craft. Like, because for competitive people, your craft matters to you. And it clearly matters to Dylan. He's way ahead in that regard. So I get where he gets the set apart. But there are a few other guys over there that, I mean, Keona Davis.
I mean, if you just want to go
way
by
talented.
If you just want to go by recruiting, Williams and Nwaneri is the closest corollary.
Yeah. And he's talented.
Hyper talented guy, 5-star, just unquestioned in terms of when he was coming out of high school as, hey, this guy has the goods.
You know what it is, BC? What if it's just as simple as it's harder to be good defensive? It's harder to be better defensively than it is offensively. Do you believe that?
I don't know. I don't know if I do or not, but that could be the case. There's more guys on.
You think it's harder? You think it's easier to be good on offense?
Yeah, I think it's easier to be good on offense. I think it's easier to scheme up being good on offense if you've got a guy like Dana Holgorsen.
And the rules help you.
I think it's really hard to be consistently good on defense. Even the last couple of years when we've statistically had good defenses, right, BC? Where you look at and you still have this like, oh, God, we can't get off the field on third down, or we give up all these third and long. Like, it's really, really hard to be good on defense, even when statistically you're a top 25 defense in the country the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because they've had really good numbers, and there's always something where you're like, no, that's not enough, you know. When Damon was talking about Deshaun, that was really interesting to me because he's a good example. Like on the defensive side of the ball, you talk about a guy that, I mean, some people were down on him last year, and I kept thinking like, man, he had a tough injury to come back from, and there was another setback in the middle of that. And I did wonder how much that impacted him even last season. And so I agree with you on him that we have not seen close to what he's capable of, because I can remember previous coaches like that guy is legit. Like he's a big time player, like a draft type player. And I think there's some people sleeping on that idea. So if he takes a big step, there's some guys, Damon, I've wondered about that are veterans in that back end. They got to step up too.
Pressure's definitely on, BC. I talk like you. Yeah, pressure's definitely on. There are no givens.
But I feel encouraged about what I've heard on the defensive side, and I know there's guys we're not talking about that are going to be important on that with that group, and you're right. Like I heard your last segment. I appreciate that you don't want to go out of your way to talk about like Caleb, but Caleb's in the mix. Caleb's going to be a factor. Donnie, Mari Sanders, they put up front yesterday. That tells you something. He's having a good spring. There's a lot of guys back there where you say, if this guy doesn't have an answer, I would think this guy over there can have an answer and help us out. So there's options. And I think they're deeper on that side than offense, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know. But that's a good discussion, though, which side do people feel better about? And I think it does go back to the coordinator, like just the way they talk about it. I don't like one better over the other, but Holgorsen's just sort of has that track record and that personality that probably contributes to our thinking on this.
Yeah. So, I just go back and it's totally not a blame game. I think we just have to be able to pull back from an optics standpoint. Right. And I think Illinois, all right, was it offense or was it defense? It's a team game. I'm a coach, so I don't like to point sides at the ball. But Nebraska did have a chance to go up 3 scores in that game, twice. With the ball, go up 3 scores. Ohio State looked incredibly poor offensively for the bulk of that game. And Nebraska couldn't figure out a way to seal the deal. They had choked off Iowa defensively. They gave up the one play to KJ on the swing pass, and they couldn't make one more play or 2 more plays on offense or even special teams. So I just think sometimes I think we misremember how it actually plays out. But I do think it is interesting that Holgorsen and his accomplishments may not have a peer that we can tangibly see on defense as a staff. But Ravi finally said something smart yesterday when he said, you know what? What if it's just as simple as we understand offense better than we understand the nuances of defense? And I was like, you know what?
I think there's a lot to that.
There's probably a lot to that. We understand watching offense better than we do defense.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, the defense talked about these various things they're going to do on third down and add some concepts. And that's even when the season starts, whatever change ups they make there or how they've evolved will sort of miss some of us, probably guys like me. Like we won't understand completely what we're even seeing on some of the tweaks they've made, because I do think what Ravi said is accurate. Like offense, it's just like that computes to our brains here.
Yeah, I mean it's and this is I put myself in this category too, because especially with football, but it happens in football, it happens in basketball. Like we're trained to watch the ball. If you're
Right.
just a spectator and you're not either a former player or didn't coach or like haven't had a reason not to watch the ball, right? Like because you have to have a specific reason not to watch the ball.
And you know
right?
It's funny listening to him set this up, even doing as a color analyst. Do you know what I never watch?
The ball.
The ball.
Right? But you have a different background
Mhm.
where you've been trained. You have reasons not to.
I never watch the ball.
If you're just growing up loving a sport, like, yeah, you may get into the weeds at some point. Like I started getting into the weeds with basketball when I was pretty young because I was just fascinated by all the off-ball movement. But even then, I was still mostly watching offense. But unless you have a reason not to, you watch the ball. That's That's how 99% of the
Yeah.
population watches sports. And so, A, we're gravitating towards offense in the first place. And B, I do think there's just so many intricacies on defense in terms of what they're supposed to do versus what it ends up looking like, that if you don't know what they were supposed to be doing in the first place, it's really easy to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've kept it vague to their. Yeah, I didn't expect otherwise, but it's been very, very general. And I actually have more curiosity about what they're going to bust out on defense in some certain situations than the other side of the ball. But
I also think it's sorry, not to cut you off there.
No.
I also think it's way more likely that something cannot go the way it was supposed to on defense and someone made an incredible play that you still get a positive result than for that to happen on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's yeah.
Like things can go exactly the way you wanted it to on defense and you get a bad result, and vice versa. Nothing could have gone right, and then Ndamukong Suh or Levante David do something crazy, and you get a great result, and you're like, oh my God, incredible defense, right? Like, so that's part of it too, is offense. I think the results more closely resemble how the play went.
Yeah. Who do you guys?
I'll grade film, BC, and it'll be a 2 or less yard gain, right? And I think, now guys, listen, if he doesn't make that play, we're in trouble.
Yeah, we did something bad.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So I get what he's saying, but I quietly like BC. I like how Butler said something, and I think he spoke last week when he said, I'm watching the growth of development, and then I look at kind of where the offense is and their evolution and their growth. I thought it was really understated. What he was saying was, hey, we don't want to just be dominant and not have those guys be good. So it's pretty important that I gauge when I want to talk about where we are, I have to look at where they are too without making any sweeping judgments. Like I think he's very cognizant of staying in the moment when he's watching this defense.
Yeah, there's no question to me. I think he thinks it's been tracking at a good speed. The D line, he said that is going to developing that is going to take into the summer and into training camp. But I think that was expected going in, and I think they've just been ultra encouraged by like the back seven, and it's not just all those defensive backs we talk about. It's the linebacker spots where, he said we have a 3 deep at 2 of the spots. And, obviously the Jacob Bauer story emerged over the last week publicly. And so, there's things like that are happening behind the scenes. I was trying to think, I was going to ask you guys who you think, like if you had to pick like one wild card on defense, like if this guy really like just takes it up a notch, that changes my opinion. I was thinking about that question. Someone asked me that the other day and I'm thinking about it.
On defense?
Yeah, defense.
I'll give you one.
I mean,
okay.
I'll give you Javen Wright.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who's mine? Mine.
Van Poppel.
No.
Oh, sorry. Keona Davis.
Keona Davis.
Yeah.
If Keona Davis is who I think he can be, then it's a total game changer on that side of the ball.
When I grew up, I couldn't decide if I wanted to look like Keona Davis or Quentin Ives. Keona might be too big for me. I don't want to shop for clothes like that. But he has a fantastic frame. If not, I'd probably take Ives. Davis's frame is incredible.
Who'd you land on, BC?
See, maybe this is a more in the weeds pick Brunson and I were talking about like a guy like Elijah Judy, just a veteran. Like if he's, I know people kind of pass by him a little bit more, and I get it for other names, but I think of like that guy, like, man, if he was just really stout this year in his role, like I'm not talking about even dominance, but there's certain guys like that at each level. I think about like, if they're just solid and a do your job guy, that does change my outlook about how I feel about the depth picture. So that's why it's an interesting question to me, because I think both those names guys gave apply, and then you can get into a guy like Judy. And so that's where the defense, you can really spin your wheels for a while thinking about all the moving parts and what it can be, and have some optimism about it.
You know who's a big Judy guy?
Who?
Versal.
I like Judy.
He loves that.
You know, so BC, I think it's funny that I think a lot of it depends on what you want the defense to look like this year, right? Because I think if you want the defensive line to look like it did last year, where Ty Robinson and Nash were like super solid and hyper consistent, and you knew what you were going to get out of them, then I think Elijah Judy makes a lot of sense, right? Because we kind of feel like we might get that from Van Poppel, and you need another guy like an Elijah Judy to do that as well. I think of it as, hey, I want the thing that I've been missing for however many years at Nebraska is big, explosive, disruptive, just game-wrecking plays. And so I think Keona Davis, I think Vincent Shavers, I think Willis McGahee.
See, that's funny because I'm talking to my buddy at the same time, and Shavers was a comp I gave yesterday
for maybe Emmett Johnson.
No, for Dylan.
Oh, for Dylan, yeah, hyper
Dylan.
talented. Yeah,
I think Shavers is.
I think he's super talented.
Is the Dylan comp, and my partner in crime agrees. Like, I feel like I get the whole back end discussion of the benefit of the doubt, but man, defense has some guys in very similar spots where if they peak, it could be really, really good.
Yeah, my more headline name than Judy, not to knock Judy, but would be McGahee. Yeah. I've said it on here before. Like, you talk about a guy with the almost plays, that's him. Javen Wright, same way, 2 years ago. Javen Wright, plenty of those. And so
he just can't practice a ton yet. So, but he knows everything. Like, you ask the guys on the back end who they trust, is Buddha.
Yeah,
it is definitely Buddha.
And what's it look like for him if he just had a normal season? I've always wondered. I think it's going to be good. But yeah, him and McGahee, if they could definitely be game record types if they can keep progressing this summer.
That's what I want. And maybe it's because we haven't had it right recently. Like, there hasn't been a game record type guy on Nebraska's defense for a while,
or at least an eraser.
Yeah, like a
problem solver.
Yeah,
you know,
a guy that if you screw everything else up on defense, makes that play that I was talking about. That makes it look like a positive result, regardless. Like, Nebraska hasn't had one of those, it seems like, for a while, like a true disruptor on defense. And so maybe I don't value the consistency as much as I should, because it's like, oh, we've had that. I want that guy that sort of wrecks stuff for other people. And if one of those guys, whether it's McGahee, Shavers, or my guy Keona Davis, I think if you get one of those guys to go, I'm excited.
Yep.
BC, was that you last week that said, hang on, Shane, give me like 60 seconds. Was that you that last week said, you were talking about the 3 deep on the inside of linebackers, and we probably should pay attention to the fact that he made mention of that?
It could have been. I forget what I said like 2 minutes ago, so that's hard to.
Right? So we're thinking Bowers. You're thinking Watson Trent.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking Shavers.
Yeah. Who else we got there?
Javen Wright. That is that group better than we think?
I think they think they're all right there.
Because we sure don't talk about them.
No, we don't at all. They're
like
almost entirely forgotten.
All.
Almost entirely forgotten.
There's somebody they feel better about than I don't know.
7.
There's a name or so that they feel. I mean, there's also the guys who are coming back from injury that are true freshmen that I'm sure think are going to be pretty good. I don't know that was factored into that quote though. You mean we haven't even got into like our, Merritt's and Christian and Mooberry guys, that are coming up. So yeah, that's an exciting room he's got. Like, it's got all these really interesting parts with cool stories too.
And
Like
I love him as a coach, so I'm definitely cheering him on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't think it's this year, but like Pierce Moober is going to be really good.
Oh yeah,
I'm
he
team,
is.
I'm team Dvorak too.
Like
so
that dude's going to be really good.
Yep.
BC, great stuff as always. Appreciate you letting us kind of take you all these bunch of weird places today. We will talk to you next week.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Vic.
yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Enjoy the weekend.
I adopted Dvorak last year, right?
Yeah,
I have to
you've
pick
been on Dvorak for
I
a
have
while.
to pick somebody else this year.
I mean, you don't have to.
I probably will.
You can just ride with your guy.
I think I'm gonna mix it up.
I mean, I've been riding.
I have a leader, but we'll see.
I've been riding with Donnie for a couple years now.
Yeah, he's apparently pretty good at his job.
That's my dude. We'll be back with Andy Kendeigh here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
Jacob, moving on to the positions for the coaches and who they're handling at practice, how does that differ between this year to last year?
Yeah, just kind of shuffling the staff a little bit. Obviously, Jordan Larson departing. They're still kind of working out how exactly she wants it to work. Busman Kelly said she wants everybody working with everybody, but it does feel it's important that they have their specific coaches that they report to for getting up, setting up meeting times, and for figuring out the video they need to watch and things like that. They know exactly who they need to go to, who they're going to hear from consistently, while they still hear from all the members of the staff. But we're seeing Busman Kelly herself is taking on the setter coaching role, so working directly with the setters, and obviously she's got setting and libero experience herself as a player here at Nebraska. So it's understandable that she would want to be really hands-on with that position. And Kelly Hunter is still in those meetings, still offering her advice and making sure she's helping establish Busman Kelly's vision for how the position needs to work. But she's not necessarily the sole one in charge of everything now.
I wanted to be able to take, basically most of the 2s and 3s, like take the older guys out, but have all the 2s. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are going to play on Saturday. They're going to play for a lot for us this year. And, play it, kind of, I like to get about 60 plays if I could, on Saturday. So I want to play. I mean, I think we have some young quarterbacks I really need to see. Well, I think they deserve a chance to play in the spotlight. Now, we've had a couple, late, soft tissue things, at some receiver spots. So, we might be in the triple out there on Saturday, running the ball downhill. But no, I think it's going to be fun. I think we're gonna play. Like I said, maybe play, not 15 play quarters, but get about 15 plays each quarter. Give those guys a chance to go rest. Bring out the the next Husker game type deal. Let those guys compete. Then go back to the next quarter. So to me, it's kind of like competition quarter, that type of a deal.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's CBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're joined now by Andy Kendeigh from KETV. AK, what's going on?
Fellas, this is going to be a unique segment. I've got a guy putting in a new water heater downstairs, so I'm on the main floor with the dogs, so I'm going to preemptively apologize for their barking.
Oh,
Okay?
shoot. No problem, but I feel bad. I had to get a new AC unit last summer en route to going to Big Ten Media Days, and I'm still traumatized. So my heart, My condolences,
Water
AK.
heaters run a little lighter than ACs, so that's
Barely.
good.
That's true.
That's good.
That's true.
What is it, about half?
That's true. What?
It's about half.
A little less than half.
Yeah. And I'll just say there's nothing like going downstairs to the utility room and seeing a big puddle of water, and you say, "Oh
Oof.
no."
Hey, what's your floor?
In terms of
Is it concrete, wood, carpet?
Oh yeah. No, it didn't get to the carpet. It just stayed on the concrete.
All right. Well, there.
And I caught it early enough.
Yeah, that it didn't flood the whole basement.
Now, are you using the wrong pronouns? Did you catch it, or did someone else catch it?
I caught it, and I know this for a fact because we had a different guy doing some different maintenance because I am a moron and don't know anything about adulting. And so,
hey,
this other guy,
that's why we're boys.
That's right. Hey, I got a cell phone. I can call somebody to help.
Yeah.
And so we went down to go shut off the water or turn on the outside water. And I'm like, what is this? And he goes, looks like your water heater is shot. And I was like, oh, no.
Hey.
And so, yeah, towels it was. And then we had to drain it. Oh, it's just, it's just awful. Holiday weekend. It's great. Good time.
AK, I'm going to tell you a quick funny story. So I was panicking over the lack of moisture. And as Sam McEwen so aptly put it, you're one of those lawn guys. Yes, AK, I'm one of those lawn guys.
Yard guys.
Yard guys. Yeah, that's what he said. Because I want rain. So
yeah,
my buddy runs a sprinkler business, and they were booked through the 25th. I'm like, hey, man, we're not getting any moisture, man. Can you just do me a solid, man? Yada, blah, yada. And so he's like, hey, no problem. When I'm in the area, you just have to be on standby. So for like 3 days, it didn't happen. And my sphincter is super puckered up. I'm like, my grass is turning brown. Like, I'm totally having a fit. His dude comes over. He turns one knob parallel. He unscrews another knob. There's this release of water. He checked the little knobs on my thing in the garage, and he goes, yeah, all right, we're good. And I go, huh? That's it? And he goes, yeah, man. And in my head, I was like, OMG, how do you stay how do you stay in business? And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's lots of dummies like me that can't do anything.
I'm right behind you, DB. Right behind.
I mean, it literally took him 4 minutes. That's how he stays in business. He can charge people for 4 minutes of work.
And he goes, hey, do you want me to make sure that your sprinkler heads are good? And I said, that'd be great. That took 6 minutes. He just buzzed through the zones. He typed in man, I was so embarrassed, AK. I was like, I need to be better. I wanted to ask him if I could video him, but it sounded weird. One dude talking to another dude, but I was like, hey, can I film this? That's where I'm at, AK. We're both dumb.
I wish they gave a course back in the day of how to adult, right? Like, this is what happens in a home. This is your AC unit. This is how you turn the water off for your house. This is, you know what I mean?
Hey.
I would have been much better prepared for homeowning if I took that class.
I get it. My wife really doesn't like me, but Saturday, I'm in Caleb's home, so he wanted this particular breakfast because it was a very short window. So I'm in the kitchen cooking. What does she do? She takes the screen door off, cuts this stuff down, puts some more screen on. Looks like we have a brand new screen door. She pokes her head in the door, AK, and she goes, who would have thought? 100 years removed. Dude's in the kitchen. The woman's outside doing work. AK, I didn't talk to her over the weekend.
Well, Wendy has often called herself the man of the house, so that's pretty much the way it is.
Well,
she's the first to Google, and I'm the first to dial up somebody to do the internet and say, hey, can you fix this for me? I have no idea what I'm doing.
She redid the screen door in like 30 seconds.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
There were some tools in there where I knew I would lose my finger. I was like, I'm not even paying you any mind.
I may actually contact your wife. We do need a new screen door, too. So,
listen, I'm telling you.
Stuff always happens.
Gonna take her 20 minutes max, and that thing will be strummed tight like a guitar string. It's like, yeah, nothing's getting through there.
No.
No, I'm just saying. We probably had to
whole weekly segment. This is great.
Home improvement.
How not to be stereotypical men. AK and DB.
Right.
Well, we're 3 Ps in a pod because if anything gets done around the house as a project, Natasha's doing it, not me.
Yeah,
it's sad.
Yeah,
As what it is.
And
AK,
I've been milking this back injury too for a while. Now it's like, oh, honey, I don't know if I should be mowing the lawn. This might be a little too strenuous.
Well, you just had another surgery, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I'm only listening to you in one ear. So I had my ear. I'll make it quick. Old guy losing his hearing, both ears. They can put a titanium prosthetic that connects certain bones in your ear to get your hearing improved, and that's what I did on Monday. And so I'm out pretty much all week. I'll be back at work Saturday, though. Lauren's going to go to the game. People have said if you have this procedure done, stay away from large crowds. So that's why I'm going to ease back into it. I'll anchor Saturday and enjoy the Husker games from afar. But yeah, it's been a
where
weird,
are all the
weird
people
couple
that say if you have my personality, stay away from large crowds? Nobody tells me that. I don't want to be around a bunch of people.
Yeah,
that's for their sake, not yours.
Wow.
And they only do one ear at a time, boys, just in case, just in case.
So you got to go back in?
This year, I'll go back in either at the end of this calendar year, maybe squeeze in once my deductibles are reached, another adulting one-on-one subject that people should probably take a mini course on. And I'll do the next year, my left ear, my IFB ear, probably at the end of the year next year.
Oh gosh, is it only going to get worse for me? Because I hate putting that stuff in my ear.
Oh, it's worse. Here's where the problem is. Lauren and Matt Patilli sit literally 3 feet from me, and I couldn't hear them when they were talking to me. I'd actually have to stand up and watch their lips because I couldn't tell what they were saying to me. And they just kind of rolled their eyes. I mean, they've been absolute troopers during all this stuff because they've had to deal with old man, issues.
Do you know why they roll their eyes at me? Is because what I hear are the voices in my head, even though they're clearly trying to talk to me. We got different problems.
I'm not so sure there's a surgery that can rectify.
Yeah, sometimes I think Lauren wants to just like wave her hand in front of my face and say, hey, focus. But speaking of which, what will we be focusing on Saturday? I'm not one of these bah humbug Scrooge guys. I'm actually looking forward to it. I don't know what I'm gonna see, but running clock, 4 quarters. I mean, what are you waiting for volleyball? Like how are we doing this?
I'll tell you, honestly, before Coach Rule said that they were actually going to scrimmage, hands down, slam dunk volleyball was the big story of the day, no doubt. And I still contend it probably is in the grand scheme of things. Our first look at DBK and her squad, and it's going to have a great crowd, going to have a great turnout. And I'm interested to see if there's, how the transition's going between leaders there from Cook to DBK. But that being said, now that they've opened the door to seeing some live scrimmaging, I'm excited to see what happens, who stands out, who's really making a case for themselves. It's a really nice perk for, some kids who may have their last appearance on the Memorial Stadium turf to get their shot and playing in front of a good crowd. And, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how the quarterbacks run the show, because obviously we won't see the top 2, I think. And so to see who's behind them and what's maybe a window into the future. And good that they could build some tape too, because, then they could go, shop themselves around. And I'm still not, I'm interested to see like who goes. Obviously there's going to be some attrition because they have to get down to the 105, but who is going to go and what position groups will be affected the most, with the numbers, because I think there's some position groups that certainly have some room to kind of lean itself out, and I think they're going to have to set some roster limits at certain positions because, depending on what guys can do, and versatility is key, as you know, that will play a big role on who makes the 105 and who doesn't. That's going to be talk about talk radio gold. 105, you guys have been talking 105 for the next couple weeks.
Yeah. I'm so tickled by that, AK. I
can tell.
I can't wait. Scintillating. Let me ask you something. Who, of the coaches that you think of, coaches of great significance, who are you most interested to watch their group work?
Oh, That's a good question.
First time anybody said that to me in 2 weeks. Thank you for appealing to my sense of insecurity. I love it.
Yeah, the starters, but I'm kind of curious to see how the defensive linemen work under their new leadership. I think that's one of the position groups I would circle.
What young Mr. Benning Caleb said, man, he talks in shorthand. TB he's like the ABC. That's the guy that's always gonna be coaching. That's as few words as he could say that guy is constantly teaching. He's a big Terry fan.
And isn't he he's like the Energizer Bunny though, right? I mean,
he goes now.
He's all over it.
He goes.
Yeah. And obviously, I want to see what special teams look like, even with this kind of goofy setup with who's going to play special teams on Saturday. Even if they do that, I don't even know if they're going to even do any special team stuff. But I just want to see Mike Eckler on the sidelines again at Nebraska. I think people are really excited about a unit that needs improvement. And what we'll see Saturday, who knows? Probably not much.
I have a sentimental favorite I'm cheering for.
Okay.
Because I know he was going to play some running back because he wants to show like he can do a bunch of different things. I'm cheering for Genatone.
Oh yeah. I would think that's a good call. Seeing what Vince can do, and he's obviously a guy who can do just about. He's one of those athletes. You plug him in, and he's probably going to fare well. And yeah, I would think that he would be one of those guys that at least would be considered for that. I don't know what you're going to call it, the 10, specialty cases where, the guys who really love Nebraska, like what we, that they're saving 10 spots for. I would think that he'd be a great candidate for that. I mean, that guy lives and breathes Nebraska football. But it will be interesting to see the guys who do have to move on, where these guys land. I always find that interesting to see where the guys land and follow what happens after they leave. Because obviously the way that is, with the modern day college football, you can't keep everyone now. And once this house settlement is finally reached, it hasn't been reached yet today, right?
No,
we're still waiting. Yeah.
So breaking
once
news.
Finally get. Yeah, no, we're still waiting. It was supposed to be done like a week and a half ago. But once we get like a roadmap, I think it will help everybody involved. And we've heard whispers, obviously. That's why this 105 thing is taken on such steam, because it's before we thought, hey, if the guy was already on your roster, you could still grandfather him in. It doesn't look like that's the case anymore, which means the 105 takes greater precedence and importance because you got to get that down. But when you have to get those numbers down and how you can replace guys on that roster, hopefully all that will get hashed out sooner rather than later, because, you got a football season right around the corner.
Yeah, what a miserable time to be wearing a yellow jersey, too.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, tough sledding.
What did you say? Can't make the club?
In the tub. Yeah.
That's our guy, Andy Kendeigh, KETV. Andy, hope the ear surgery recovery goes well, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. I'm going to go check on water heater guy now.
All right.
Thanks, okay.
I got super lucky. I had my water heater last year.
Mm-hmm.
No leaking, no flooding, nothing. It just water was cold one day.
Yeah.
I got real lucky.
You know what? It just dawned on me.
What's that?
I may have to do something physical on Saturday.
Yeah.
Do you know what else dawned on me?
What's that?
I don't have nary a clue what it is.
So that's like, I'm sure you're thrilled about that.
It can produce a little bit of anxiety, but as Jessica likes to tell me all week, just go with it. We'll figure it out.
Some people over there. Have somebody give you a heads up.
Do you think they were going to do that for me? They want to make it as uncomfortable as possible.
Call your boy.
Which one?
Any of them.
Nah, he ain't answered.
None of them?
I couldn't even get Caleb to pick up this morning.
Yeah.
Dude said, I'll call you at 1:45 at 6:05.
Hey, he knows the schedule.
You ever heard anybody say that?
They got that thing regimented. They're ready.
I'll call you in 7 hours.
Just give me a cool 7.5 hours.
I'm like, look, man, you don't even know what I wanted. It's quick.
I don't want to talk to you. It's 1:45.
Beat it.
Get out of here. We'll be back. We're Hurrdat Sports Live.
I'm pretty fired up, and this wasn't on the schedule or planned to have a spring game in Devaney, but it was really important for me to get one under my belt with this team and this staff, and against an opponent that is also in a new era. I think adds another excitement piece to it with a new coach and, a young coach who's got a great reputation. And so I think it's going to be a lot of energy on both sides, and I'm really excited for it. And again, just the practice of the prep and the game day is all going to be great for everybody.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
All-American wall.
Yeah.
Add some new additions to that.
Yeah. This was one of my babies when we moved over here. We wanted to put in an All-American wall, and Maggie Thorne was the designer that helped do all this. She did an amazing job how they did this. And again, we wanted to bring in the feel from the Coliseum, so we have the columns in here because we didn't want to lose that tradition. And that's why in the Devaney we have the big red deals. And ironically, I spoke at Lincoln Industries last month, and the guy that designed that and built those was in the group that at Lincoln Industries where I was speaking. He came up and told me, he goes, "You remember those things?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, I designed those."
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, and it could be a really great weekend if you're a volleyball fan. Obviously, you've got the Nebraska exhibition on Saturday, but the bread around that sandwich is a couple of Omaha Supernovas matches to end their regular season. They've got Friday the 25th at home and Sunday the 27th at home as well. Make sure you get out and support the Supernovas in their last two home matches of the year at CHI Health Center. Go to supernovas.com to get your tickets. You get 3 days of high-quality volleyball in a row.
That's fine, Ravi.
If that's something you're into.
It is. But are you waiting for me to give you a response to your read?
No, I was just I was seeing if Shane was ready over there.
Oh, so you know what?
Shane, we good?
That was like sandpaper.
Which
that
one?
was not very smooth.
No. No,
I don't have the clip yet.
I think you should kick your own rear end.
I'm not that flexible.
I have to circumvent this thing. I have to send it to Sasha to get to Shane because apparently this dude can't get megabytes.
It's 41 megabytes. I can't. It won't let me forward it from my.
It's god dang 2025, man. People send like weapons plans over planes on second channels. You can send anything.
What the hell am I supposed to do?
What? Why are you laughing at that?
It's a funny example.
Oh, no. Shane said he's a big Hexus guy.
Yeah,
yeah.
It seems like it.
But right now, I'm a big misery guy.
Right now, you're really acting like you're incapable.
Oh,
of
it
doing
just
what I'm-
came in. Now I got to download it.
Seems like they've got similar technical acumen.
This dude drives me bonkers. I don't even know why I'm nice to you.
This is
Shane.
your guy.
I know.
This is your guy.
I know.
Oh, there's no attachment on it.
Oh my God.
What am I supposed to do?
I think DB might kill you.
I can't stand him. Anyway.
You think we can figure out during Mitch's segment? You think we have that?
Well, I'd like to
enough
be able to
time?
ask Mitch the question. Let's assume that he knows what we're talking about when Coach Rule gave credit.
You can send me the link. That'd be cool.
Oh my God! Shut up, Shane. This is it.
Well, he's here now. Mitch is here now. You want to just go to him?
Yeah, let's go straight to Mitch. Let's go to Mitch Sherman of the Athletic. Is he ready, or did you just prematurely throw him under the bus there?
I
Shane?
mean, maybe.
Is he ready to go? There he is. Mitch, we're having a great time here this morning on Hurrdat Sports Live. How are you?
I'm good. That's the quickest entry ever. I just came into the waiting room like three seconds ago, as you saw.
Yeah, well, we like for things to grow, Mitch. We don't want you to pull a Shedeur Sanders and be sitting around in the green room until you fall to
You think that's going to happen, do you?
I don't know, man. I just know if he winds up in Pittsburgh, you may have to talk me off the ledge. That's all.
Okay. And they have a good history with former Buff quarterbacks, right?
Oh, God.
He's actually a big Jalen Milroe guy if he had his druthers.
Mitch, you don't know how you're cutting me to the core right now. You're hurting my feelings.
I just remember Cordell playing for the Steelers.
Yep, even though he was highly functional as a Steeler, I could not. It was much like LeBron for the Lakers. It takes every piece of humanity in me to cheer for this guy. I watched him drop like a sack of potatoes last night with a little eye graze to the face. And he flopped around like a newly caught crappie on the boat, and I was mortified. I'm like, stop it. You're too big to be rolling around on the ground like that. Would you just get up? Like, I don't know, Mitch. I don't think I can cheer for Mr. Sanders. I just don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a solid take, I think.
I mean, have you ever have a guy that like plays for one of your teams that you just don't want on your team, but you just have to kind of go with it?
I mean, I really just have one team.
Royals?
Yeah.
Of all sports, that's it?
Pretty much. It is. It really is. I mean, in college,
healthy.
kind of hamstrung a little bit since I'm covering those teams. And no, I mean, in the NFL, like the Chiefs have a strong presence in my house. But I'm not really a Chiefs guy. I've kind of become that because my daughter's a big Chiefs fan. My son liked the Panthers, and he's hanging on. I don't know. Maybe it came from Cam Newton. I know where it came from, but he's long gone. So we occasionally will watch that. My wife, she pretended to like the Bengals. I think she actually does. She likes.
Is it a Burrow thing?
No, it's a Zach Taylor thing.
Oh.
And NBA, and my son's a Lakers fan. So that's about it. No, I mean, I'm just Royals. And yes, there have been players through the years. I'm not thinking of any off the top of my head, but there have definitely been players through the years who I've been like, no, I don't want that guy on my team. Like basically, if you ever played for the White Sox or the Guardians or the Twins, and then you come to the Royals, I have a hard time cheering for you.
I was trying to remember, was Melky Cabrera a White Sox before he became a Royal, or was that after? Because he was a Yankee, right? Melky?
Hard for me to say. Yeah, I remember him in Kansas City. I don't know what the order of
That's a guy that I would have had a hard time rooting for. I didn't like Melky Cabrera very much. I don't really even know why. That's the first name when I was thinking of Royals I didn't like. That's the first name that popped in my head.
Now, if they're on the Royals first, like a Johnny Damon kind of situation, and then they go to a rival, then I have some problems with it because I want to like that player, but there's certain teams I just can't cheer for at all. Anybody on those teams.
All right, Mitch, speaking for you want to like a guy, like I clearly want to like Coach Rule, and so maybe I'm reaching here, but one of the little subtle things that I liked about yesterday's press conference?
Tell me.
He gave credit. I think Sam asked him the question about guys going in the draft and 5 to 6 and the representation, and he just went into, well, first of all, those were guys that were recruited by Scott Frost and developed by that strength staff. You heard the answer, right? And I
did.
And I'm just thinking to myself, with his divisive and his I'm on this side and not that side and this coach against that coach, we heard, Coach Frost get after Coach Riley, and Coach Riley had to follow Bo, and then Bo didn't like the. Like, can you imagine, like, if Bo just said, hey, you know what, Coach Callahan, he recruited really, really well.
Okay.
My draft class was well represented. Appreciate that guy. Or, Coach Frost was like, you know what, I inherited a fairly good roster. I didn't really have to go into how they trained or didn't train. Like, if I just would have acknowledged, does any part of you think that would help the angst and animosity and the vitriol about comparing these eras? I thought it was a super classy move that showed a ton of humility in the moment for Coach Rule.
Yeah, gracious is the word that I used. And what's interesting, like if you say that, let's say you've coached these players for 1 year and then they're going to the draft. I think it kind of is understandable. It's not common. It'd be very uncommon. I don't know that I've very rarely ever heard it in college sports. But he's coached these, like Thomas Fedoni didn't even play more than a couple of snaps in the Frost era, and it was after Scott was out. And Robinson clearly developed and turned himself into the player that he is, and will be drafted as under Matt Rule and Terrence Knighton and Tony White. Same thing with Nash. Yeah, he didn't need to do that. If he would have just went on and talked about those three in the others that he mentioned, and not said anything about Sean Becton, which I thought was kind of taken aback with that one, because Becton was a guy who I think some fans felt like should get a look to be on the
good
on
call.
The staff when
Good
Rule
call.
put it together.
Yep.
And
He
to
was
have
well
him
thought
pull
of.
that, to have him pull that name out was interesting for sure. It just shows his awareness. What's funny when you asked the question and you brought up Pelini, could you have imagined Pelini saying that about Bill Callahan's players?
And I'm a Bo guy.
He did, but he didn't do it in public.
Yeah.
He told people behind the scenes, wow, some of those guys that you left us, and you're talking about Prince Amukamara and obviously Ndamukong Suh, but so many others on the defense.
Mitch, I got a list.
Okay.
We got a list.
Eric Haig, DeJon Gomes. Was
Gomes
a Callahan signee? Yeah.
It's 14 of the 17 guys that were drafted in his
under-
first 5 classes
were Callahan.
Were
guys.
Callahan guys. 14 of the 17, Mitch.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Of the whole time that Pelini coached, 14 of the 17 were Callahan guys. And to think that Bo was there for 7 years, so most of his career was spent without anybody from the Callahan regime in the building, and still it was 14 out of 17. I would not have guessed that the number was that high.
It was staggering. That's courtesy. Who found that? Was it Matt? Was it DeMarinis?
Yeah, DeMarinis.
Yeah,
but
we took a deep dive.
But Bo did tell some people who I've talked to strangely in very recent days about that specific subject, that hey,
the irony.
Yeah, you got just wanted to let you know that this was somebody that was on that staff, on Bo's staff. Just wanted to let you know you guys left us a lot to work with.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is kind of funny because we did. Oh, go ahead.
I know. Just when he said it, I was like, see how easy that was?
Mm-hmm.
Just simple, gracious humility. It doesn't have to be, well, they left us this and they didn't do that and this guy did. It was just casually talking. Hey, I just want you guys. It would have been easy for him just to move on and
right.
And I don't want to falsely like prop that up, but I just think.
But nobody would have thought anything if he just never mentioned Frost's name.
It wouldn't have even come to mind.
Even if we were like, even if somebody brings up, oh, hey, well, Ty Robinson was recruited by Frost and whoever, it'd be like, yeah, but what was Ty Robinson before Rule got here?
I mean,
like,
he just
right?
He nipped it all in the bud, or our guys and winning with all the stuff we hear coaches talk about. Year this or not year that, or my first full class. None of that. Just bang, bang, bang. Here it is. Shout out to those guys. I want to say that. And then he moved on. Like, he probably didn't give it any thought, but I thought there was power in just, as you said, graciously saying that. Just a lot of humility.
Yeah, right. It was a rare thing. Humility is a rare thing in college football today.
Humility, transparency, all the above.
Yeah.
Part of the reasons we like Rule. Did you think it was, I don't know if, maybe I'm the only one that thought this. When he gave the answer about the quarterbacks and which ones we were going to see on Saturday, did you find it interesting that Jalen Gramstad was one of the guys that was going to be held out from the scrimmage as opposed to any of the other guys? Did that register with you at all? Because I don't know. For some reason, it clicked with me.
Well, he was definitely the one that I was curious about when I didn't ask that question, but like it was going through my head. Are we going to see Gramstad? And when Rule laid it out last Thursday, when he came to us with this new development that there was actually going to be a scrimmage, and he started to talk about who you might see, and he said, "Well, you're not going to see Jacob Bauer." It's like, okay, well, who are we going to see?
Yeah.
And it's like it sounds like really very few of the twos are going to be out there. Like we've heard him in the past talk about, and I have to go more into this in the next phase of the offseason after we get past the spring, and expect a few more to go in the portal and the roster to come into a little bit more of focus, although a lot of that probably won't happen until camp. So the Rules talked about the top 57 and how that's going to mirror a little bit of what an NFL active roster looks like with 53. You'll have another quarterback, but on the 57 and then 3 other spots. But I think that's the group that won't play. It's not going to play in this game. Although I just kind of contradicted myself because they're going to play 4 quarterbacks, and I think they're going to have 3 quarterbacks in the top 57. But for the most part, that's the group that you're not going to see play. And if you would have asked me yesterday, is Jalen Gramstad in the top 57? Of course he is. Absolutely he is. He's the number 2 quarterback. There's not even a question. So from that standpoint, he's kind of just backing up what he told us on Thursday. So I'm not surprised, but it'd be nice. I mean, he's too indispensable to put out there in a situation where he could get hurt. So get through Thursday, and then you're happy to be into the summer with Jalen Gramstad in good shape as your all important number 2 QB.
Mitch, you may need a mechanical pencil here to jot this down, but kind of slot these in order of importance on how you think we got to the physical portion of the scrimmage. Missing the BTN television window, having it happen the day after the transfer portal closes, him wanting to not embrace the transactional side, to give kind of the one last hurrah, and then really trying to decide between the last however many spots in terms of the importance of how we got here as kind of this epiphany.
It's hard. It's hard to like put all of those things together like on one plate and say that they're all existing on this day on Saturday. It's definitely interesting. That's not the right word. So when he came out with the initial announcement that Nebraska was foregoing the spring game, and the reasoning behind it, like the majority of the reasoning behind it, really the only thing that he mentioned back in February about this decision had to do with the portal and how he doesn't want to create a showcase for teams to be able to raid Nebraska's roster. Well, we probably could have looked at the calendar right then and said, Hey, question back here. The portal closes on April 25th, and your spring game is on April 26th. So, how's that going to impact you in the portal? But there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts, and I honestly don't know how much they even considered.
And it's not hard fast, right? We've seen guys enter the portal in non-portal opening.
You can, yeah, you can. Like if you just want to say I'm transferring, like take the word portal out of it.
Yeah, so
if
it's
you just
like
I
don't know why people are hung up on that. Like,
because
you
it's
can
like
go
the
anytime
mechanism.
you want to.
It's right, but it's the mechanism that is most easily used.
I hear you.
It's the best way to get exposure as a potential transfer. If you want to leave, is to say I'm going in the portal, and then your agent can do his work, and it's very above board for the other schools to start inquiring. But you're right. Like if 12 players want to transfer on June 1st, they're going to be able to transfer at the end of the day. On the other stuff that you brought up there, Damon, yeah, it's like I think sometimes you want to look at these things in college football and say like, well, you can be critical of somebody for kind of changing the way that the situation looks. Rule. It's like, okay, I want to be clear here. He said last Thursday, this is not like a tryout for the 105, but like it kind of looks like maybe it is at a couple of spots. I mean, they're going to take it into consideration how these players perform. I get it's just 1 out of 15 practices in the spring, but you're telling me that if you're player 107 right now and you have a great scrimmage on Saturday, that's not going to impact the decision that they've got to make in August. I got to think that it is going to impact in some way. So you have to, I think you have to give Rule and all college football coaches who are grappling with this stuff a lot of grace, because everything's changing. Like, who would have thought that we would be at this place on April 23rd, 2 days before the portal closed for the last time before the season, and still not know what the terms of the house settlement were. Or like whether what exactly the 105 had to look like. Rule said last Thursday he thinks it's going to be a hard cap 105 with a little bit of space for some injured players. Like, okay, what if that changes next week? Like, we've seen plenty of instances where things like that have changed.
Also, would you be surprised if part of the settlement was making the NCAA allow players that were quote unquote cut like eligible for immediate transfer? Like,
they have to be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, we talk about this portal window, but at July 1st, when
is that a right to hire, right to fire thing? Like, why do you say that so casually, Mitch? Do you think have to be?
Have to be what?
What I mean, you said, well, you have to be like, because I think
because nobody's going to be arguing against it.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be arguing against it. If Nebraska cuts loose 15 players in August, then Matt Rule wants those players to find homes somewhere else. The portal is there, so you can't just jump and leave, even though you kind of can. So if Nebraska's not trying to limit their ability to transfer, and the players want to transfer, and the other schools out there want them to be able to transfer, like, who's standing in their way? They may have to put some special language into the rules that specific to this summer, and say if you're a player who ends up getting cut as a result of the 105, the reduction to 105, then you can immediately enter the transfer portal, like create a new transfer portal window for players who get cut. But I don't even think that's necessary. All they have to do is get released from their scholarships, and then you're free to go somewhere else. Like whether it's through the portal or just through like I'm now leaving and am on the market. The portal is nice and tidy because you can be a college coach in Florida or Texas and call up the portal on your laptop and see all the players that are listed there. And if they don't actually open the portal in July or August, then they're going to have to find out through different methods. It would be nice if I got to think like they're just going to say, yeah, if you get cut, you can go in the portal. It doesn't matter the time of year.
How much do you think he enjoys, or not enjoys, but it was part of it was also missing the television window too, to be able to capture film?
Yeah, I didn't answer that part of the question. Sure. But by the time the traditional portal is again open in December, are schools going to be relying on spring scrimmage film, or are you going to look at the 12 games that you have in the fall, which should provide better film? Maybe if it's a player who doesn't play that much, but you've got.
I mean, you could simply be prolonging the inevitable, though. You know what I mean? Like, just kick it down the road a little.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from Matt Rule's standpoint to limit the amount of opportunities there are for other schools to look at his roster, whether the portal's open or not. So, and he kind of drew a line in the sand there about TV back when he talked about it before. And I think, like, maybe he got rubbed the wrong way a little bit about the way that the TV worked and what kind of exposure that created for players last year. There really weren't many who went in the portal after the spring. You had Chief Borders and Ruquan Buckley, who were, that was it as far as notable players who played in the spring game and then went in the portal. I don't remember if both of those guys played. I think they did. So it doesn't seem to me to be like a big thing, but Rule is not, he was pretty clear he didn't want TV.
Is it possible that we're all concerned more about the rules than the coaches that Rule is actually worried about?
Yeah. After this, I got to follow up.
Because I wonder how much of it isn't about, hey, we're worried about them leaving in December, as much as it is, hey, I'm worried about them having another school in his ear from April until November.
It could be that. Right. That's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point. The portal doesn't have to be open for teams, right? For teams to mess with your roster. So if team X out there sees a backup linebacker look great in the Nebraska spring game, like, the portal doesn't have to be open. Yeah, I think we're probably, like, in this conversation here, like, exactly. We're too focused on, like, what's by the book. And Matt Rule's probably thinking, I don't care if the portal's open or not. I don't want those conversations to happen.
So on the heels of that, which is good, how do you think we'll look back? Like, how much credit should we give? Like, how many of us could operate at a job or do something at a fairly high level with no real rules? Like, we're going to probably look back at this and think, this guy's able to function and adjust at a relatively high level. And it's like a free-for-all. Like his ability to just kind of roll with the punches and still move the ball forward, I think is fascinating to watch unfold with no clear guidelines on how to do business.
Yeah, he talked about Pat Stewart on Tuesday and how he's a critical thinker and how that was a big part of the appeal for Rule to go get him as the general manager.
And we get him tomorrow. Is he tomorrow?
Yeah, he's going to talk tomorrow. And I think the reason that appeals to Rule is because he also is a critical thinker, and to operate in a world where you don't have regulations. I mean, there's rules on some things, but so much of this there's not. And that's why I think you have to be careful when his plan changes. Like, you shouldn't be critical of his decisions to change plans because all of the stuff around him is in flux. I don't know. Like, I don't have the answer to what makes him able to do that, but it's probably just, operating day by day. It's like, all right, you're the head of this operation, and you wake up on a Wednesday today. It's like, how am I going to do this today with what the rules are today? And then tomorrow's another challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to put myself or most people, like, how do you can't throw your hands up in the air and say whatever, but you even go back to the little things that he said about recruiting and NIL when he said, hey, unless you're a guy that doesn't mind having to go back on your word or say something different than you've said to a potential recruit or whatever, then, hey, maybe this time period is for you. But for us, we're going to be a little bit more calculated. Like, even in that comment, he's still drilling down to, okay, Let's just focus on the things that we can control when it's appears to be utter chaos everywhere else.
Yeah, I'm sure he has guiding principles, transparency, communication, open, honest dialogue with his players. A lot of there's crossover between a lot of those things I just said. And if you stay on track with most of that, then no matter what the rules are around you, you're probably going to be okay. And the players can see that you're being consistent in that.
How taken aback are you? And again, I always try to go back to that conversation you and I had in the press box months ago about, well, it has to be tighter than this. Like, they need to button this up. Like, basically the gist of what you were saying is this would be very difficult to operate in the unknown for this long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you think are you taken aback that we've got this far down the road with this much money being made by multiple people with the huge deals, and we're now going before Congress, and we don't really have discernible good rules or leadership? Like, all this money is out here with no real, like, how'd we get here with nobody to tell us what the guidelines are?
Yeah, it's kind of a mess. I'm done. I'm past being taken aback by it. I think like when you and I talked, and even like through December, the end of the season last year, I often thought like, well, there's no way that we're going to get to this month or this month and not know like how rosters can be structured, or like what the exact and we pretty much know on the rev share and the pay, but we don't know about third party NIL, which is a big part of it too. We're still waiting for a final ruling on that.
Who's enforcing the rules? Do we have a good idea on that?
It's still the NCAA, right? I mean, they're in charge. If there's going to be limits, if there's going to be limits,
I mean, don't ask Mike Gundy.
Yeah,
who's going to punish us? Like, okay, Mike.
If there's going to be limits on third party NIL, and you're going to have this clearinghouse there that says anything over $600 has to get approved, like that's set up by the NCAA. As powerless as the NCAA seems at times, and as much of a punching bag as the organization is every time it goes to court, they're still the only one who pretends to be in charge in this spot. Now, maybe that'll change. And I know sometimes, like, yeah, you get the SEC and the Big Ten, and they get their minds together and they make bold proclamations, but they're not really setting rules at this point. They're not changing the game in that way. So it's the NCAA.
Yeah, they're the traffic cops now. They don't get to make the rules, but they'll tell you when you're speeding.
Right.
Mitch, as we get into the draft tomorrow and over the next couple days, I know Coach Rule said maybe 5 or 6 guys that might get drafted. You think that's the right number? Is that like in your head what you think, or a little higher, a little lower?
I think a little lower. Robinson, Fedoni, Hutmaker, I think. And there, you could be surprised. Somebody sneaks in there. Maybe one of the wide receivers. Somebody takes a shot there. I don't think it's going to be more than 4 or 5, and I'd probably lean toward the 3 or 4 category. I think those 3 are a pretty good bet. I don't know. I haven't heard a ton about what teams think on Nash. But I know it's a deep class with D linemen, but just knowing that D linemen are pretty coveted, and I mean, I got to think that he has a role. I mean, a lot's changed with Tommy Hill, and the injury for him, and it's I think it's more than that. But that's at the root of it, that he's been hurt and he's been unable to work out. He may have gone from a borderline first rounder back in September to all the way down to free agent at this point, which is really hard to see. Or maybe somebody says, nah, this guy, when he's right, has a really high ceiling. So we think he's a steal in the 6th or 7th round. So he could get in there too. But I got to think it'll be like in the 3 to 4 range.
If is any so for the development of the program as it's kind of moving forward and Nebraska tries to get to wherever they need to be, at what point will you go back and start looking at draft results, Mitch?
I think when you get to the place where the majority of the players that this coaching staff has recruited you can already do it. Like the players who are going in the draft this year have been coached by Matt Rule in most cases for 2 seasons. And that's enough time. That's enough time with somebody to change their future. Nair and Banks were there 1 year. But definitely when you arrive at a place where he's been here 3 or 4 years and all of the players who were coming out and going into the draft came through his system. We're just about there. Okay, they were recruited by the previous staff. I get that, but that's the bigger piece is like what happened when they got to college, because you can bring the number 1 overall recruit into college. And if he doesn't perform in college, if he doesn't do anything, he's not going to the NFL. Like it matters what happens in his college career more than anything. So we're getting close. We're getting close to that place where I think the NFL draft results are one of the gauges of how successful a college program is. But definitely by the time, we get another year or 2 into this and everybody who's coming out was playing for one coaching staff all the way through.
Yes, sir. Real quick, is that different? Is draft talk for you, just Mitch Sherman, a different or in addition to conversation than player development?
Yeah. It's they're in the same neighborhood. But not all player development, not all like excellent instances of player development lead into NFL draft picks. Some players are just great college players and they're not going to make a splash in the NFL. I think of the old style Nebraska quarterbacks, and Nebraska did a great job in developing Tommy Frazier and Eric Crouch. The fact that they didn't have NFL careers doesn't take anything away from how that reflects on the program. That's a unique situation because they were option quarterbacks, but I mean, it exists in other ways. They're not the same game, college and the NFL. Some positions are about the same, but not everything's the same. And some players work in college that just aren't going to be great in the NFL. So they're closely related, yes, but they're not. There's some slight differences.
That's our guy, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, appreciate the time. As always, we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mitch.
That's an interesting question about the development into draft results. I don't think it's a 1-to-1.
Just real-time thinking out loud.
But it is an interesting question because that's usually what we point to.
It is
the only tangible thing, really.
And I'm going on the heels of the offense versus defensive talk and assumptions. And I think there's only a handful of positions that we can safely say have developed the guys they've gotten consistently, and that's O-line,
tight ends.
There's
a couple spots that I think of. Mitch mentioned old Nebraska quarterbacks.
I'm sure there's one on defense.
Yeah.
Maybe inside, maybe the second level guys.
I'll say linebackers have gotten
gotten better.
Yeah. At all times.
I think maybe D-line. Or do we have to wait because we have had a coaching change?
I think we also need to see people other than Ty and Nash to make that decision. Need more of a sample size.
Because there's several cases for O-line development, and several cases for tight end development.
Yeah, we're with D-line, we're mostly leaning on Ty and Nash at this point. We'll be back. We'll have more on this coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Live.
Jacob, moving on to the positions for the coaches and who they're handling at practice, how does that differ between this year to last year?
Yeah, just kind of shuffling the staff a little bit. Obviously, Jordan Larson departing, they're still kind of working out how exactly she wants it to work. Busman Kelly said she wants everybody working with everybody, but it does feel it's important that they have their specific coaches that they report to for getting up, setting up meeting times, and for figuring out the video they need to watch and things like that. They know exactly who they need to go to, who they're going to hear from consistently, while they still hear from all the members of the staff. But we're seeing Busman Kelly herself is taking on the setter coaching role, so working directly with the setters, and obviously she's got setting and libero experience herself as a player here at Nebraska. So it's understandable that she would want to be really hands-on with that position. And Kelly Hunter is still in those meetings, still offering her advice and making sure she's helping establish Busman Kelly's vision for how the position needs to work. But she's not necessarily the sole one in charge of everything now.
I wanted to be able to take, basically most of the 2s and 3s, like take the older guys out, but have all the 2s. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are going to play on Saturday. They're going to play for a lot for us this year. And, play it, kind of, I like to get about 60 plays if I could, on Saturday. So I want to play. I mean, I think we have some young quarterbacks I really need to see. Well, I think they deserve a chance to play in the spotlight. Now, we've had a couple, late, soft tissue things, at some receiver spots. So, we might be in the triple out there on Saturday, running the ball downhill. But no, I think it's going to be fun. I think we're gonna play. Like I said, maybe play, not 15 play quarters, but get about 15 plays each quarter. Give those guys a chance to go rest. Bring out the the next Husker game type deal. Let those guys compete. Then go back to the next quarter. So to me, it's kind of like competition quarter, that type of a deal.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Speaking of the NFL draft, there's an opportunity for maybe 6 guys to be taken this weekend. That would be a representative big jump from this program in recent years. How do you feel like you guys have put players in position to move on to the league? And I wanted to ask specifically about Fedoni. He took a risk, obviously, taking a chance going to the NFL draft now when he could have come back, and it looks like he's pretty much a consensus NFL pick.
Well, I think it's very important to say that most of those guys were brought here by Scott Frost and his staff. Okay. So I think that's very, very important to say. And his strength staff and all those people that were here. So, Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, Isaac Gifford, those guys were brought here. Fedoni, those guys were brought here under that staff. So I know the impact like Coach Beckton had on Thomas. Just the relationship that he had. So I think that's important to say.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's the clip we were talking about earlier when we brought Mitch on about giving credit to previous coaching staff. And DB, you sent me on a little mission yesterday to go back and look, because you said anecdotally you would guess that of staffs that had inherited talent, that Pelini 1, and then what you said, Frost 2, would be the guys that had inherited the most. Now, this is not a perfect exercise, right? Because the question you asked Mitch at the end there kind of goes into this. There's
the development piece?
The development versus NFL draft, because there's a lot of really good football players.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So I'm having this conversation with a coach nationally yesterday. It was because he's the one that brought it to my attention first that what Coach Rule said didn't appear to be the typical Nebraska way. Then I got the message from Matt DeMarinis, and that sent me down the thought process.
What did he mean by not typically the Nebraska way?
Because he knows that we come across as a very divisive, each your own kind of state.
Recently.
Where as he said, the last 15 years.
Fair, okay.
Coaches eat their own. Coaches, you had Callahan be mad at the fan base. You had Bo clearly be mad at the fan base. You had Riley that was all shucksy. You had Frost.
Who was mad at Riley.
Chew Riley up.
Yep, for years.
And then you just have this coach that grabs the mic when he has the chance to beat his chest.
And gives credit to somebody else.
And he gives credit to somebody else who left under very, very, like the state is upset at how he handled his coaching tenure. None of that matters to Coach Rule.
Yep.
And just in a simple answer, it's like, okay, hey, it's guys, you don't always have to get a pound of flesh. You don't always have to bitch and moan. Like sometimes you just acknowledge what it is. You move on. We don't have to get that deep into the blame game. And I think this coach, like really, it caught his attention.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what if, and as a guy that worked closely with Bo, like what if Bo would have said that about Bill?
Publicly.
Yeah.
Or
what if Riley would have said something about Bo? But immediately, look at what those guys came in under. Riley was hired as the anti-Bo. That was the narrative.
So he couldn't give credit
to Bo. So he couldn't really give credit to Bo.
Yeah.
So we continued to have these factions.
And Callahan left under, again, very negative circumstances.
So
Bo doesn't want to go back and give credit to Callahan and tie himself to that sinking ship.
Because at the end of Bo's tenure, when people thought he wasn't recruiting well, he was the guy that uttered the famous words, "We need to get more ready-made guys."
He also is the guy that constantly, and this is one of the things that really made me mad about Bo.
Said that he couldn't recruit here.
Said it was really hard to recruit here.
Yeah. So there are all these things.
Yeah. When his predecessor recruited here at a pretty high level.
So I say all that to say, not to pick at each individual guy. I'm just telling you how we got to where we're such a toxic. We're so toxic in how we treat one another.
Yeah.
What we talk about, what we gravitate towards, wanting to be right versus get it right. And it was this person's fault. And no, it was this person's fault. And like, we just do that. And it was just cool to hear a guy.
When he didn't have to.
Just
absolutely did not have to.
And was natural in doing it.
Yeah. And it was the first thing he said.
So I'm like, that's nice. That, you don't always have to put your hands up and fight and blame somebody. Like
you know what I think it is though, because
it just fit what I like.
It's because he's secure in who he is as a coach,
or where they're going.
Yes, because
where they're going.
Yeah, because what did we just say about some of the guys on why we felt they couldn't give credit? Right? If Riley is more secure in who he is as a coach here at Nebraska, let's not pretend like he was a heralded hire.
Yeah, or if we just didn't paint him as
the anti-Bo.
He's just the anti-Bo,
right?
Like. That would be tough circumstances to come in under.
And it would be a really tough circumstances to give credit to the guy you were supposed to be the antithesis of, right? Yeah. That's a very difficult situation. Same thing with Bo. If he's maybe got some head coaching experience and a little bit more of that under his belt, maybe he can come in, be secure enough in that role to say, hey, they actually left us a pretty full cupboard here, right? Let's go ahead and use that to be good, which they were, right? I went all the way back to the transition between Osborne to Solich.
Oh, jeez.
I went all the way back. Now, this is not a perfect science because some of the recruiting data back then is not good.
Yeah.
And then you've got guys that came to Nebraska, left, went to the NFL from their second school. That's not really included in here either. These are just guys from Nebraska that got drafted out of Nebraska.
This ought to be good.
So
am I right?
You are dead right on Pelini.
Okay.
Except for Solich, which is a different circumstance because T.O. was going out of his way to try and set Solich up for success.
Who got the better roster, Mike or Scott?
About the same.
Okay.
In terms of NFL guys, about the same.
Okay.
Now, here's the part that makes it really tricky with Riley, is he wasn't here very long, and he was seen as a dead duck really early in that third season. So a lot of the guys that...
So his problem, though, I would make the case, anecdotally, his problem wasn't recruiting. He got good guys. It was development.
Yes. And here was the other issue. There's a lot of guys in each of these that
Riley, they got
good
recruit.
Guys. And before it became clear he was going to be fired early in that last season, that was trending to be a very good class.
Yeah, who got Spillman? Riley?
Bo. It was under Riley that Spielman came in.
So and he got Wandale.
Yep. But again, Wandale doesn't count because he transferred before he got he's not on this list. I only went on guys that were drafted out of Nebraska.
Okay, but why
I
think Wandale is different?
Yeah.
Is because Frost had the opportunity to keep Wandale.
Yeah, and he didn't.
And he couldn't.
I'm not saying he shouldn't count. I'm just saying for the way
that's fair. You just want to make it clean.
Yes.
That's cool.
And because there's a lot of names, so it made it easier just to do it that way. But the other thing that makes it really tricky with Riley is because that class started to fall apart as soon as it became clear he was not going to be the coach the next year, and that happened pretty early, he doesn't get the benefit. Like Thomas Fidone is a really good example here, and so is Tommy Hill, of guys that could get drafted that stayed at Nebraska despite the fact when Frost got fired. Those guys didn't stay at Nebraska when Riley got fired. So that's the really tricky part there is
that's fair.
Probably would have had more.
Okay.
But you didn't.
That's fair.
But the numbers are what they were. Riley inherited 5 NFL guys from Pelini. I've got Frost inheriting 4 NFL guys from Riley. Pelini's tenure was obviously much longer. The best number is T.O. to Solich, because T.O. was really trying to set Solich up for success, and the program was the best at the time. That's 21 NFL guys that he inherited from T.O.
Where do you factor in being able to fix it in the portal? Because that's a whole different.
Yeah, that throws a whole wrench into this. Basically, starting in the Matt Rule era.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
The next one, so the narrative on Solich was the recruiting fell off as well. Callahan only inherited 8 guys. Only 8 NFL guys he inherited from Solich.
Wow.
Despite the fact that the program was largely still in a pretty good place.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is probably what was his ultimate undoing.
Yeah, I think so.
He's just kind of a victim of the previous benchmarks.
100%. Yeah.
Because we had a hard time staying in a moment. Guy still won a lot of games.
Won a lot of games.
Yeah. Okay.
63-20. Is that
fair.
right?
That's fair.
Off the top of my head? Somewhere in that neighborhood. And then you're dead right on Pelini. Pelini inherited 13 NFL guys from Callahan. 13.
I'll take it.
And that includes Ndamukong Suh, which is the best player anybody inherited on this list.
And he's probably the even split. Was he 2 or 3 with Callahan or 2 or 3 with Bo?
He had 2 years under Bo. I don't think he redshirted, so it would have been 2 and 2.
Okay.
Because there was, and he is sort of the Ty Robinson of this example, where I know he had 3 with Frost, but the 2 years under Rule made him become the guy that we think of.
Hey, so Corey brings up an interesting point, and I could be off.
Yeah.
Who recruited Wandale?
I believe Riley did.
So Frost got there in 2018.
I'd have to check.
Right?
There's also a little bit of, so the other thing that's really hard about this to get it clean on the recruiting classes is like, okay, who started the recruitment versus did they keep the commitment? Did they get the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just take more time.
And it gets really messy. I looked at the time because our friends at Husker247 do a pretty good job with the timelines.
Yeah.
So I did look at that for some of the guys I had questions on. Because I didn't include Wandell, I didn't look at his. Just because he got drafted out of Kentucky. But it's a good point that obviously that's an NFL guy that was either inherited. I think he was inherited. But I'd have to go back and look at the class. Like I didn't include Cam Taylor-Britt because he was in one of those transition classes, but I gave that credit to Frost.
What do we do with the linemen, like the Spencer Lewises, the Farniaks, the Gates,
The guys that weren't as good in college as they ended up being in the NFL, the Leiden Murthas, Yeah, so I counted them because you have to.
Okay. I just was curious.
But I do. That was one of the things that I noticed. I was like, oh, man, some of these guys were Callahan linemen that didn't really ever pan out at Nebraska, but lasted in the NFL for a decade.
Yeah.
But part of that, again, then has to be on, I would imagine has to be on Bo if you've got these talented guys. They sit here and you go, he was never able to get anything out of them.
Mhm.
I have to imagine that if Bill Callahan had stuck around, and judging what they happened in their NFL careers, that one of the best offensive line minds in history would have made them quality offensive linemen. At
Okay,
Nebraska.
so that transition, you're 17, 18, 18, 19. Cam Taylor-Britt and Wandell were both Frost guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they got in the Frost category there. And then here's at this point, the most damning is last year, nobody got drafted. So the first class
So you could make the case
that Rule inherited the least
that
amount
Aaron
of talent.
inherited the least amount of talent.
Yeah. Now you're going to have, I think it's going to be 3. I don't see 5 or 6 guys getting
5
drafted.
seems high.
Yeah. I think it's 3. And I don't know about Nash. I don't know what they're going to do with Nash. I really don't.
So who's the third?
I think Isaiah Nair is going to get drafted because of the testing numbers. If you look at his physical measurables, that's a guy I think people will look at and be like, hey, going to take a chance on a 6'4" guy that tested at a really elite level for a wide receiver.
So
that's basically what we're doing.
Even
with
the 5 to 4 between Riley and Frost, they're basically
even.
Yeah.
Rule got none.
None. And for what it's worth, most of these, the heavy emphasis in their draft classes was the first year of guys they inherited. That was the most across the board was the most impactful class, was that first class after they inherited of guys going to the NFL. Guys that probably just need another voice in their ear to kind of take their game to the next level, or that were just going to be good anyway.
Interesting.
Now, part of that is part of this is going to be transfer portal related.
So if anybody should have done the complaining,
Sherman Rule.
That's kind of where I'm landing the plane.
Because in my opinion, best case scenario, because I don't see a world in which 4 guys get drafted. I don't. Maybe I'm too negative, but I don't think Tommy Hill gets drafted.
So we're talking drafts or playing on Sundays?
I did just draft.
Okay.
Now I could go deeper and go to guys that ended
gives
up
you
undrafted free agents.
Stoles and guys like Gifford and guys like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
But in terms of guys that just got drafted, he would have to have 4 guys drafted in this class to tie for the lowest amount of talent inherited.
I'm not. It doesn't surprise me as an indictment on anybody. It's more of I more like the fact that Coach Rule was quick to give credit.
Yeah. It was an interesting exercise, though, because it did confirm what we thought about Pelini.
I just wonder what would have happened if all these guys would have been more like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're pretty angry, fight with each other fan base, and I'm sure other fan bases are like that too, so I'm not telling people how to fan, but I wonder what leadership could do
to help that.
To help stem the tide.
Yeah.
Like
Because
just do the modeled behavior thing.
It's really easy to be divisive when the coach says, well, they didn't leave us much, or they weren't doing this and they weren't doing that. Like, that makes it really easy to be divisive.
Or when you're not winning.
Yeah.
Like
He could easily be in his feels about not being where they wanted to be. Like he knew they left games on the table last year.
Yeah. Because
and he said, certainly, I'm not going to celebrate 7 wins, but I'm not going to apologize for breaking the bowl streak either.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you look at it, I think it's very easy to say, yeah, the cupboard was not exactly left stocked for Rule. But at the same time, I don't think Rule has ever looked at this roster and been like, oh, it's a talent problem. Like, I think he looks at the roster and goes, yeah, we can win with these guys. So that's kind of the difference, too. Like, Pelini is the one that probably should have said it publicly because he didn't have anything to lose by giving credit to Callahan. Everybody knew Callahan recruited well. Nobody wanted Callahan to stay. He didn't have anything to lose. You can give credit to Callahan. You look like a good guy. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and the fans wanted, like, Bo, he was well received.
Yeah, people loved Bo.
Yeah.
Early on, people loved Bo. His approval rating was near universal when he got hired. That was a hire that everybody wanted. Nobody wanted Callahan to stick around, and everybody knew Callahan recruited well. It would have been the easiest thing in the world to give Callahan credit publicly. Now, a guy that probably could not have given any credit to anyone was Riley because of how divisive Bo's firing was. Yeah. Riley couldn't go back and, like, I get why Riley didn't go back and get it. I really do. That would have been really, really hard because nobody, like, the approval rating.
I get the Steve Peterson thing, and he had easily the toughest boss too.
Yeah. Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like, I don't begrudge Riley. Like, he was in a tough spot all around. He was replacing a guy a lot of, like, at least half the fan base.
But I think quietly, like, he recruited better than we think.
He recruited really well. And his last class was in a position to be a monster.
Yeah,
it really was.
So that was in the area of development.
Yeah, 100%. And, not to say that it's not like Riley should have stuck around. I get that. Like, I get why they moved on from him, but.
Well, that helps me with my development talk too, because, and I'm not setting this up for if Nebraska has success, but will we still tie development to draft picks, or are guys just better? I kind of like Mitch's answer about some guys are just really good college players.
For sure. You see that in college basketball more, I think. You see a lot of really good college basketball players that I know for sure are not playing in the NBA. Like,
yeah.
Whether it's
Garcia or
a bunch of guys.
Nah, he could maybe actually.
I would say because of his, like, measurables, he might get a
Baker
chance.
Mazar or.
I mean, you don't have to look down the road. Like, Stephen Ashworth is not an NBA player.
Yeah.
But he's a really good college player.
Yeah.
Casey Tominaga, not an NBA player, really good college player. Like, just pick a guy, right? There's a ton. They're all over. I mean, I think I go back to guys like Scotty Reynolds. Scotty Reynolds was a really good college player. I think he got a cup of coffee in the NBA, but he was never going to be. You just look at that guy. Hey, that's not an NBA guy, right? Christian Bishop, really good player for Creighton. That's not an NBA guy.
It's funny you didn't say Texas. Hater.
He wasn't as good at Texas as he was at Creighton.
Well, I don't know.
He was trying to be a wing down there.
Hater.
I mean, just pick a guy, right? It happens in college basketball all the time. It happens in college football too. We just don't talk about it a lot, you know? And so I think that's a really important part. But again, unless you are in the weeds, NFL draft is a really easy thing to say, hey, like Iowa's a great example. Iowa gets way more guys drafted than they should based on their recruiting prowess.
Because
the development's incredible.
They develop their ass off.
And the number of guys that don't get drafted that were still developed at a really high level is also really high.
Yeah.
But typically, you're going to see the NFL draft picks aren't all the guys that got developed well, but if you have that on your resume, you probably also have the really good college players that got developed well that just don't fit the NFL.
Yeah, because there are just so many guys that we're kind of missing too, like whether it's a Stoll or, Joshua Kalu or
like Austin Allen.
Yeah. Who's my corner that came? God, they had to totally rehab. We're 21, 3 years ago. Drove Mickey crazy.
Didn't get drafted.
What was his name? Jets got him. Corner. Come on, long, tall drink of water.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I'm looking it up.
It's like, so what do we count that?
Yeah,
right?
so there's another layer of research I would have to do.
Chin's had to really pour into this guy. Is it Jackson?
Lamar? Is it Lamar Jackson?
Yes. the corner.
Yeah.
Thank
Lamar
you.
Jackson, the corner.
Man,
Yes.
Come on, DP.
Yeah. So there's a whole other layer I can go to of just guys that played in the NFL from Nebraska that aren't going draft class specifically. And that would be, I mean, that's an exercise I can go into because there are more. But it is, even if you get those guys, you're still not getting, again, the full picture.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got guys that never get a chance in the NFL, probably, and for good reason, like they just don't meet the minimum standard of whatever, that you look at and you go, oh, yeah, that was a really good college player, though. Like, that's a guy that was really talented. We really like him, just was never going to be an NFL guy.
Yeah, you can't really go back and get it, right?
Mhm.
It's over with of the years of complaining and the back and forth and the media wars. I'm just simply saying it was nice to hear that yesterday and move on when it didn't cost you anything.
He didn't have to.
It just didn't cost you anything.
I think of a guy like, and not just because he's a Miller North guy, but like Mike Caputo. Really good college player.
I just saw, one of my favorites.
But he's like 5'10" or something.
He's fantastic.
I don't think he ever weighed more than about 260.
He's out in Bennington.
Really good college center.
Man crush.
That dude was never going to get a sniff in the NFL, right? Just measurable wise, it was never going to happen.
Ricky Henry. There were a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Like there's just a bunch of those dudes that you're like, hey, that's a really good college player. Never going to get a sniff in the NFL just because he doesn't meet certain minimum requirements. So those guys are going to get missed even in the undrafted class of players. But I do think if you've got a history of getting guys to the NFL either by draft or free agency, then that accurately reflects your development, even if you don't catch everybody. That would kind of fall under that category.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting conversation, though. I really do. That was an interesting question you asked, Mitch.
Because at some point, that's what he's going to be. That's what's going to be the standard.
Getting guys drafted?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it should be.
It's because you've prided yourself. You talk about development twice a week.
Yeah.
Every time you take the podium, it's either something to do with teaching or development. So if you're going to call yourself a developmental program, like that's what you're going to have to do.
Well, and how many times has he brought up the guys from other places that he's been, that he got to the NFL and got paid, that
like MJ Sherman left better than he got him.
Yeah, for sure. And I have no idea.
That's development, but the guy's not going to be playing in the league.
Yeah, no idea if he's even going to get a sniff at a training camp.
Yeah, but he was better than when he got him.
Way better, and he was a good ball player, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, let's say Jamari Butler ends up getting a shot at the league. He wouldn't make this list, but was he better when he left Nebraska than when Rule got here?
Yeah.
100%, right?
Yeah.
Jamari Butler turned into a pretty good football player at Nebraska. That's why other people wanted him.
I shouldn't have allowed myself to go there, but it is gonna come up.
Yeah,
because number one, you got to win games.
Yes,
and then he's already ahead of the goodwill that will be built up with you start winning games and you develop guys. You can become that monster that I've been talking about recruiting. You kind of unified or galvanized the state.
Yeah.
A little bit because you're still going back to the principles.
Yeah, because you're still going to talk about it the right way.
You're going back to the principles of what Nebraskans want.
Yes.
With their program.
So if you can do that,
you can get away from the portal and NIL talk at some point.
If you can do that, and
I mean, if that was the case, he would just go out and pay for Marty.
Yeah.
Like you want that to be a battle. You know Cal has done all the in-homes. You know Rivera calls him every day. You know Miami is paying more money. And if Nebraska could still somehow pull that off, it doesn't mean they're not recruiting him as hard. It just means there's a different set of guidelines for what they want.
It's a really good example, and Nebraska fans are going to hate this.
Give it to me.
Josh Dix.
Oh, yeah, because of
the
what
exact same thing
what
happened.
he was willing to do.
To play at Creighton. As opposed to take the highest bidder.
Yeah.
Or maybe go somewhere that was going after him a little more.
And they won't hate it. They'll understand.
Yeah.
They understand.
But because you've got a track record.
That guy gets guys better. I'm going to leave better than when he got me.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting the bare minimum or whatever it is that I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like Marty Brown is a really good correlation to what we saw play out. I think with a lot of Creighton transfers, I think they actually operate very similarly in their transfer markets where Nebraska and Creighton both say, hey, Nebraska football and Creighton basketball both say, hey, this is what we think you're worth. We're not like this is our number. We're not getting into a bidding war. Either you want to play here or you don't want to play here. We have a lot to offer. And if that's not for you, cool.
Yeah.
If you want to say, and listen, I will never begrudge a kid for saying, hey, these are my prime earning years. I'm going to get paid. Cool, man.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with that.
No.
But I also don't have a problem with Creighton and Nebraska saying, like, that's not the game that we're going to be in. We wish you the best of luck. And I'm sure they will. If Marty Brown decides to go to Miami because he says, hey, like running back shelf lives aren't super long. I've got a chance to cash in here. I don't know if I'll have that chance in 2 years in the NFL or whenever. Pay me now. Hey, go get that bag, Charmar.
Yeah.
I totally understand it. But if you want to be about Nebraska, they're not going to get into the bidding war. And I'm cool with that.
That's 100% accurate, too.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live tomorrow.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.